Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete across all your favorite series. In officially licensed cars, engineered to deliver the most accurate driving experience possible. Join a race or host your own with players from across the globe. Race against the computer or in a league with friends. Feel the thrill behind the wheel. Visit iRacing.com.
Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome back to the Racecraft Simulations V8 Veterans here, live for round 10 of season 22 for the Split 2 action out at Phillip Island this evening. I'm your commentator Hamish, Munro, joined this evening by John Van Ree, one of the V8 Veterans admins, and someone who dreams of beating Baldock one day. John, great to have you here alongside me for an absolutely cracking end to our first season in Gen 3, which should be one that should be an absolute belter, because we know that Phillip Island is a track that it can offer so much chaos, it can offer so much carnage, but it also offers up some great racing as well.
It is an iconic circuit. It is a circuit that has been well used by the V8 vets over the journey. These guys in this Split 2 will know this track and know it well, and it'll be very, very interesting to see how they tackle it. And it's a pleasure to be here with you, Hamish. Dreams of beating Baldock. Obviously, you haven't been looking at the results from Split 4, mate. Baldock dreams of beating me.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe when Baldock gets on a broadcast again, we'll put that under his name, dreams of beating Van Ree. Yeah, Scotty Gamble, unfortunately, couldn't be here tonight. He's dealing with a family emergency, so we're hoping that everything is okay with that and that he can be back with us very soon as well. But we'll have a quick look at this circuit. It's the circuit that we've traversed the most in the Veterans, John. We've done the most laps around here. I'm a big believer that if we were ever to do a V8 Vets special event, it should be at Phillip Island, because it is the most used track in Veterans, and I think it's an iconic Australian circuit. Of course, iconic races like the Phillip Island 500, of course, as well. As my dog has decided to bring a squeaky ball in at the wrong time, so that's definitely stolen off of her. But
I just thought that was a hamster wheel of your zooming in camera.
Let's have a quick look at this circuit. They, of course, all start on the Gardner Straight here, and then all the way for a fast run down towards Doon Corner at turn 1. Fast-paced turn-in. Difficult corner to really get settled into. You got to try and get the car set up well for that turn in, because it sets up the whole lap. And if you have a bit of a tough run through turn 1, it's going to ruin your run up through Southern Loop at turn 2 as well.
Definitely does. You got to get over that crest there at the Southern Loop, then dive down into Stoner Corner. You got to carry as much speed through there as possible. If you're good enough, you won't lift. And then you come down into Miller Corner. I think everyone still calls it Honda. And you've really got to pull it up. It's a tricky corner, and like most of the corners here at Phillip Island, it has a couple of different lines for entry, which does get people off guard. And then coming through Miller Corner, you've got to get the gas down and get it down hard so that you can get good pace heading into Siberia and hold off the cars behind you.
Yeah, it's such a tough little section through Stoner and Miller and Siberia. Good little passing opportunity at good job. Losing all my words today. Good passing opportunity down at turn 4, though, of course, under brakes. But if you can get that exit right as well, you can get it done up into 6 at Siberia. But it's depending on how willing your opponent is going to tango with you. If they want to try and fight you for it, if they want to give you that little bit of room. But if you can get that good run out of Siberia, careful of the wheel spin on exit, you get a great run up through 7 and 8 through Hayshed up towards Lukey Heights. Another difficult corner at this track, John. Uphill braking zone. The corner kind of gets away from you as you get around that corner. And you've almost got to be pinpoint accurate on your line through that part of the track, because you can very easily run it wide, end up in the sand, end up in the grass, and then skating across the track down at turn 10 at MG. But again, if you can get a run around Lukey Heights, if you're willing enough to send it up the inside at 10, you can get the job done on the inside. Such a tough little section, though. I think the next part, though, turn 11, got to be cautious of, the run through that corner, smooth throttle, smooth gearing, smooth steering. Otherwise, that rear end just wants to bite on you like a bucking bull and can very easily spin you around and shoot you out sideways.
Definitely. Like, as you said, coming out of MG, you've got to be critical. You're coming downhill, the braking and the balance is out of whack. But if you can get a good drive through 10, cutting the apex, you then come into that 11 corner on the right side of the circuit, which makes it a lot easier to try and control that wheel spin coming out. You've got to tiptoe through there. You've got to be gracious. You've got to be ballsy. You've got to have a max power as you get in up to 4th gear and start turning it into turn 12, the final corner. This is the corner you've got to get 100% right if you're going to get full noise down the Gardner Straight to set yourself up to pass somebody down into doing. It is a very, very, very tricky technical circuit to race at.
Well, the beauty of it is they get to go racing around it for 300Ks tonight. 68 laps of this circuit, of course. The length of this track, 4.4Ks, 2.7 miles. In the old language, this layout has been used since 1978. It is based out of beautiful Cows in Victoria here in Australia. 12 turns anti-clockwise, John. It's a ripper circuit, and it's one that I think a lot of drivers should have done a lot of laps around here, especially those who, of course, have some history in vets, because the longer you've raced in vets, the more laps you would have done around Phillip Island, being that it is the most well-used circuit here in the Veterans. But it's such a beautiful part of the world. I love every chance I get to go to Phillip Island, not just the track, but the island itself, experiencing every little bit of culture on this wonderful place here in Victoria. It's a beautiful place. It's one that I would hope to live one day, because I think it's absolutely gorgeous. But I think tonight it's going to be a test for these drivers. Big news coming into this race, though, to do a little bit of, we won't call it R&D, we'll call it a little bit of housekeeping, we'll say. Round 10 was made into a drop round due to Cyclone Alfred up in northern New South Wales, southern Queensland at this stage, and we're hoping that all of our fellow vets out there who are in that area are staying safe. Of course, it broke land today, so hopefully with the incoming rain and possible flooding that everyone can stay safe with that as well. But it was made a drop round because obviously a lot of drivers would have been without power or without the ability to actually come racing, and it would only be fair to at least keep them within the championship fight. One of those, Jason Spriggs, who was the main contender to Logan Barnett in this championship, is not able to race tonight. So for Barnett, he's been given somewhat of a lifeline, John. Now he comes into this race, 6 wins so far this season. He has the opportunity to break the record of most wins in Split 2, that being 7. But at minimum, he needs P26 on the road tonight and he'll win the title. So he's got a bit of an easier run. But we do know the internet gods and sometimes the racing gods like to play no pity on you and then force your hand. So for Barnett, he'll be hoping for a nice clean run. He doesn't need the win, doesn't need a top 10. He just needs to make it from flag to flag, from end to end. And he'll win the title as long as he finishes inside that top 26.
That's exactly it. He has had a cracking season, and it was a call made early in the week when all the Armageddon talk was going on. I think it was the right thing for the league to do, based on the fact that we have just about a third of our drivers coming out of that southeast Queensland, northern New South Wales area. So we really needed to make sure we were looking after everybody and keeping everybody safe.
So warm-up sessions currently happening at the moment. Sean Vandermeer in his final race for Nova Sim Sports here, John, before he moves on to 9.5 Sim Sports next season and joins our current champion-elect, Logan Barnett, depending on how he finishes tonight, as well as obviously the great Scott Gamble and Sean McNamara as well as some other great drivers in that team. I think that's really going to help Sean get to the next level once he joins that outfit and gets a full season under his belt. Of course, he was dealing with his knee reconstruction this season, dealing with getting himself back in the groove of things. And I think looking at Sean's history and how he's grown, I think this is the right move for him. It feels like he's out. Not that he's outgrown Nova necessarily. I think being in that team with such quick drivers who are, consistently in split one, I think that's going to help him so much. And I think it's going to push him further to the prediction that myself and Scott made that he will win a title in 2025. And I think this is the year that he can do it now, especially in that outfit.
Oh, absolutely. I've had a bit of a chat to Macca about it, and I know the boys at 9.5 are pretty excited to have somebody of Sean's raw talent coming into the team. He has already shown his ability to try and step up into things like SCOPS as well as his SRW. I think Sean, and I called it when he first started back in the lower splits, has some raw aggression, some raw pace about him, but he also has a very smart racing brain. And I think, we're definitely going to be seeing big things out of Sean, I think, for the rest of 2025.
Well, we saw this season he already took his first podium in the Vets. When is he going to take his first win? Could it be season 23? Well, on my money, I think it very well could be. As the warm-up comes to an end, we're going to move in towards the race this evening. 300K, 68 laps to come your way. We've been here for some absolutely chaotic races in the past. Who can forget round 1 of season 18 here? It was very controversial. Some people maybe jumped the gun with some of their opinions. Me. But in hindsight, it was a great race. And I think we've had some phenomenal races here in the past. And I think we're on for an absolute cracker once again here this evening. The starting grid, though, for tonight's race is as follows. Championship leader Logan Barnett, who has not lost the orange number next to his name all season since gaining it at the end of round 1. He'll come into this race once again as championship leader ahead of Dean Logsdale in P2, who's had an absolutely breakout season thus far this season. He has an opportunity to get into that top 5 and get promotion up to split 1. We'll be watching him eerily this evening. Zippy Fly, Adrian Zeal will start P3, undoubtedly his best ever qualifying in Vets. I mean, or in split 2. In split 2 at least.
No, that's wrong. There's a mistake there. There's a mistake there. Hamish. Surely there's a mistake.
There's not. He's somehow found pace in that 333 Mustang and put it on. It's a 3-3-3-3. 4 threes for him. He was 3.5 tenths ahead, or behind, sorry, the pole timer Logan Barnett. Sean Vandermeer will start at a P4 in his final run for Nova Sim Sports, ahead of Jace Fewens and Andrew Hoffman on the third row of the grid. Hoffy has an opportunity to get a car inside, or at least 2 cars inside a split 1 next season, with Wayne Sanderson and Jim Caparonis in contention for top 5s in the championship as well, with Matt Muggleton missing from this race this week as well. Stacey Boyd and Mick Clifton, they'll start on the 4th row ahead of Damon Fisher. And Todd Duggan for your top 10. Paul Burns, Jamie Peters in his last outing for Infinity Motorsport. He'll start out of P12. Hopefully, at least the last few weeks, his steering wheel gremlins have been away. Hopefully they do not return here this evening as he starts outside of the top 12. Chad Viger, Chris Blanchard will start alongside each other further back as we have Wayne Sanderson and Dave Arney making their way into the 8th row of the grid ahead of Rick Viger, Simon Hedeshy, Lorne Mackay, Nick Hasler for your top 20. Alistair Bales, Derek Lovegrove, Brett Fisher, Simon Haynes will make up the top 24 positions on the grid, with Jeremy Bush, Richard Barella, Brett Taylor, Troy Sipple, Sean Gallen, and Jim Caparonis, your top 30. Scott West in the last car to get a time in qualifying. Ricky Hyde will start at the back of the field. Shane Randall joined the server but never made it back from cricket training in time, so he will not race this evening. Neither will Peter Baxter, so Ricky Hyde is the last car on the grid for the last round of the season. And for Logan Barnett, he is 300 Ks and 68 laps away from glory. He just has to make it to the checkered flag inside the top 26 and he will do it this evening. It could be history, John. Could be history. Could be a record breaker. Who knows?
It could be. I think he's got the goods. He's shown the pace for the former ERT driver. He's been around iRacing. He knows what he's got to do. He has shown pace in the past, and I think he's got plenty of brains and plenty of head smarts about him here to be able to hold this one off, I think.
So, lights up for the drivers at Phillip Island. 300 Ks to come your way. And we're underway for lap 1 this evening. Barnett leads them through, but Logsdale rockets it off the line towards Doohan Corner for the first time. You see the scramble in the background as drivers rally for position early on, but Barnett's had an absolute ripper as well. He takes back the lead over Logsdale. They've kept it clean thus far, it seems, for drivers in the background. They're just trying to keep themselves going as Viger has a little slide, thanks to Blanchard. We'll see what race control say about that one, John, but they've kept it clean off the start. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, they've all done fairly well here, but it's still very hectic coming down into Miller for the first time. As we see Barnett gets through, but we're 3 deep, a bit further back out of Stoner. As we come through, it looks like Zippy Zeal has dropped a spot. Oh, one of the Southern Cross cars. That's not Hoffy, is it? Surely not.
It is Hoffy.
Oh, no.
Off
El
the
Supremo.
road.
Oh!
Lovegrove as well. It's blown up at 4.
Wow. First time through, everyone there, safe and sound though. And another one, that looks like Blanchard.
It is Blanchard.
In trouble as well.
Oh, it's gone off heavy here, John, already. Early in this race, multiple drivers off the road, but Barnett leads the way and looks to lead them round for lap 2 as well. But Logsdale's hot on his heels. Vandermeulen's up there with a possible podium on offer. Fewens is up there. He hasn't raced all season, but he's had some up and down performances as Jace Fewens. We'll see if he can back it up here this evening as drivers continue on through to the Gardiner Straight. But what a hectic lap 1. No safety car just yet, John. Seems everyone's still rolling.
Definitely a couple of big winners though. Mickey Clifton up into 5th. He's done really well picking up 3 spots. Paul Burns into 8th, up 3 spots. Todd Dugganetti holding off in 10th still, but Rick Viger right behind him. He's up 6 positions as well. So definitely some big movers already in this first part of the race. And don't forget, still a long way to go. It's only lap 2 of 68. So you didn't really need to be making those big dives in lap 1.
No, you did not indeed. You just had to keep it pushing, keep yourself going. It's a long race. I mean, the fuel strategy, there was questions from some drivers. Did we take 3 stops just to save the tyres? I mean, the only real benefit you get from that is if they're safety cars, but still, I think... Oh, as Boyd's off the road as well, down at turn 4. I think Paul Burns is too.
And someone else in the background. That's oh, no. That's the second Southern Cross Racing car to come off in the same location.
Is this what happens when we get to the most southern crossed bit of the iRacing circuit?
It must be. It must be. They've dropped the ball there. And Stacey Boyd, of course, dialing in from Buffalo, New York.
He gets up early to come racing, and he will not be happy being 24 spots down the order now, John. I mean, this is it's the only way to say it. It's an atrocious start for him, unfortunately, in this race. As we see, Alistair Bales is hot in the crossfires here. Settles into his regiment in P17. He's just in behind Brett Fisher, who we made the discovery this season. Brett Fisher's got a bit of commentator about him. You know,
absolutely.
Brett's he's got something about him. You know, whether it can apply to sim racing more often, I'd love to see it.
Jumped in the over 60s and gave me a hand and was an absolute champion. Found out he has resided in Albury, so he's an expat from Albury Wodonga. Raced go-karts against my brother, of all things in history to find out about Mr. Fisher. But yeah, he's having an absolute cracker here. He's up 7 spots. In front of Bales, in front of Haynes. The kid, he's made up 6 spots as well. Don't rule him out. He's still got many, many years of sim racing in front of him, particularly in vets. There's someone else going cross-country there in the background. That looks like
Chad.
One of the Angry Bird boys.
It is. It's Chad Viger. So that was Fewens off the road. Chad Viger's off too. And a big loss for that car. He had a great run last week at Sandown, John. Got on the podium, did Chad Viger, but not the run he would hope for this evening.
He's got back on track though. He's tucked in behind Fish. He's going to try and get himself going again. There's definitely a very good battle pack forming here from 8th all the way back down to about 20th, all the way back down to Sipple, where then you've got this mob that we've got here included in it. So just keep an eye on this group. Anything can happen here, as we've already seen. As we can see, Chad already getting very racy on Sean Cullen in front of him. Just for those at home, no relation to Ed.
No relation to Ed. I don't know how we've lucked into having 2 Cullens in the one
In the
series.
same team.
Yep, and in the same team as well. Scott Weston enters pit lane, so a very early stop for Mr. Weston here. At minimum, he's probably only going to be able to take about, I'd say, 60-odd litres here, John, to get to the full 133. But Barnett at the front leads the way, 1.1 seconds back to Dean Logsdale. Sean Vandermillen's now started to break away from Mick Clifton. 3.7 seconds is that gap behind him. Zippy somehow still inside the top 5. He's got his teammate Damon Fisher hot on his heels, as well as Todd Duggan having a very solid run tonight. He's been very unlucky in season 22, has Todd Duggan. I kind of hope that Todd can get back to his championship winning ways, John, because when Todd Duggan was at his peak, he was incredibly difficult to defeat on track.
Oh, look, Duggan Eddie, he is an absolute legend. I had the pleasure of having dinner with him before Christmas up at Newcastle, and those boys at Nova, they are very, very switched on, very, very organised. Probably a little bit sad to see a few of them leave the ship, so to speak, but I'm sure they will replace those guys with some very talented drivers. But Todd, as rough as he comes across and as rough as he sounds, he is an absolute true gentleman deep down inside when you meet him. And hopefully it'd be great to see him get back that form back. Because Todd, one of the over 60 drivers as well. So, he's doing pretty well, very well.
A P7 at this stage. He's got Simon Hedersheet is about 2.2 seconds back. He's up 10 positions in this race already. For my money, John, probably the best driver to never win Split 2. I just think he's never been able to put that full season together, that full championship winning season. You could argue Jason Spriggs is probably in the same realm as Simon is, but I think when Simon was at his best, similar to Todd Duggan, he was incredibly tenacious on track, incredibly difficult to defeat. And you maybe say, less time in the car, less time in the sessions, as well as the changing of the measurement system in vets has probably pushed him back just a little bit. But when you get pushed back that little bit, John, that should then push you to maybe push a bit more forward and find that little bit more pace if you can.
Well, we saw that in Split 4, didn't we, with Ray Smith this season. Absolutely put together a championship result for him, between him and Brendan Zatera. Absolute battle that went down to the wire. And it just shows, if you do put the effort in, you can get those results to come. Like the change that we've seen over the last 12 months in vets is we've moved away from a hot lap format to a racing building championship format in terms of promotion and relegation, and we're starting to really see it work now, and starting to see guys that have worked their way down, probably some on their own making, some not on their own making, but we've seen some of those blokes put their hand on their heart and step up and start fighting their way back up the order. And Heddershell's one of those guys, I think, that a little bit more seat time, he'd probably be back in Split 1, but he's definitely not worthy to go down any further than where he is.
So at this stage, there's been some updates from Race Control on some of the incidents. So Chad Viger's incident at turn 1-2 was considered no further action due to some net codes. Same for Zippy's incident at turn 4. Stacey Boyd, Paul Burns. Paul Burns has been given a pit lane penalty for careless sum impact. So he's lost 5 license points to his name. So those are the early incidents that we saw happening across the first couple of laps in this race. But at this stage, everyone's looking to keep nice and clean at the moment. Ricky Hyde has been fighting his way forward, as that was Todd Duggan going off track. As I cut away, it was perfect timing, John, I must say.
Well,
Todd, he rejoined. Nearly a questionable rejoin, but he somehow filters in nicely here. The point I was about to make was Ricky Hyde's on an absolute tear at the moment. We've seen him do this before. Starts in the very back of the field and then just grinds his way up through the field. If he can get a good position here tonight, could find his way inside the top 10 in the championship as well. He's up 12 positions at the moment. The only drivers close to that many positions gained at this stage is Jim Caparonis up 11, and now Simon Hedersheet's up 11 as well after getting past Todd Duggan. But for Hyde, he's pushing forward. He's pushing forward well. He's got Andrew Hoffman in behind him, who I think was working on his paint prior to this round John, because it doesn't look like he's actually had the time to finish it just yet, unfortunately. But hopefully we'll see that thing in its complete synchronicity before next season. Or, someone does make paints for people out there, but whatever it may be.
I did actually get sent a sneaky picture of that livery with the 007 number on it.
Oh.
I'm not sure there's something going on there because Rob Baxter's still denying he's moving teams, but we'll find out. I think it's started next season.
We'll find out. I do know as well. I did say last week that there was possibly a new driver coming to Infinity Motorsport to fill the hole that's been left by Jamie Peters, moving into his privateer realm now of racing, going back to his just coming in for fun, not wanting to race in a team. I can reveal, now that they have actually signed up, Justin Wood will be joining Infinity Motorsport next season down in Split 3, moving us to 6 drivers in Split 3, the most we've ever had down there as there's contact with Hoffman and Hyde.
Again!
And then Hoffman's gone again.
No! Wow, that is just... I keep saying that going down in the Miller is treacherous, and a lot of people think it's the only place you can get the job done. But, as we see, Siberia with Sanderson going through straight away. It's a tough corner. You've really got to set it up right. You've got to do it properly. You can't go half-assed into it and hope for the best.
You've got to be committed, and I think one thing a lot of drivers need to keep in the back of their minds, if you are not 100% committed to your move, just get out of it. Don't go for it, because it's going to end in tears. I mean, you've got to be calculated. You got to take your time, plan the move at those sorts of corners, those sorts of moves, in fact. And really, it's not a move that you just do on a whim. It's one that you need to plan for and wait for your opportunity to set yourself up. And it's moments like that where it's not been planned. It's been seemingly a last-minute decision, and it's ended poorly for both drivers.
Yeah, absolutely. And that will be a long way to fight back. Hasn't been a safety car yet, and it's a track where you may or may not get a safety car depending on how far off the track people run if they do have a motor blow or in an incident. So relying on safety cars to get back in the game, not recommended around this place, as we see Heddershield tucked up behind Jason Fewens, the go-kart racer himself from Mount Gambier. He's absolutely doing very well for the Banter Alliance team and always been an epic driver to watch. Haven't seen him streaming for a while, but his streams used to be very entertaining.
I was taken aback at the start, or last season, John. I had the opportunity to run and call a GT4 series as part of the iRacing World Challenge, and I found out that Jace is actually very good friends, which makes sense. I mean, my friend Jack Michelson's from Mount Gambier as well. But yeah, it was actually quite interesting that two worlds can collide like that. Jack was a former member of Infinity Motorsport, then became a member of Velocity, then moved away, then went back to Velocity. But yeah, to find out that him and Jace are actually very close, because Jack grew up doing karts in Mount Gambier, and they actually used to race against each other in Mount Gambier as well, which is quite interesting how that can work out. But it's weird how you can find these little connections with people out there, similar to obviously Brett Fisher and yourself, John, over in Albury Wodonga, and then even locally in Mount Gambier, people.
Look, I keep talking about these expats. Shane Patterson's another one, another expat. He spent a bit of time in Wodonga growing up. We also saw the old Baxter boys. They've both spent a bit of time in their younger years in Albury Wodonga. So yeah, it's interesting. People get around. Anyway, this is still cracking here. This group here is still very tightly bunched. Not much between them. Zippy Zeal having Damon Fisher as his rear gun. And after that, we still have Fewens, Heddershield, Viger, Jamie Peters, Lorne McKee, Todd Duggan, all still tightly bunched up with that. So Barnett is quite comfortable. He's got Logstars tucked in just behind him. I know Dean will be just buying his time at the moment. We talk about smart drivers, understanding the fact that it's an enduro race. We're only on lap 9 of 68. You don't want to be making the big moves. You don't want to be burning those tyres up. You just want to be settling in here, trying to conserve a little bit of fuel, conserve a little bit of energy, conserve a little bit of energy in those tyres. Hoping that, Barnett might show some weaknesses as the fuel load comes off. Maybe he's heating his tyres up a little bit too much, trying to keep that lead in front of Logstar.
Yeah, and I think as well, kind of running that, it's not constant pressure of where you're stuck right up underneath the rear wing of the car ahead, but the constant pressure of you're in their mirror. You've been in their mirror the last 10 laps, and you haven't gone away yet. Or as we see, Barnett locks it up down at turn 4. We mentioned mistakes, John. Barnett locks it up. Maybe looking in the mirror is a little bit too hard there as Logsdale streams on by. So even those little mistakes now, it's not going to cost Barnett the championship for that sort of mistake, but he cannot afford to make those sorts of mistakes all throughout this race, because eventually it could be a much bigger mistake, which then leads to a worse incident for himself. A little off track to give up the lead on lap 10, not so bad. It's bigger impact to give up multiple positions on lap, say, 67 would be so much worse if that would happen. So for Barnett, maybe a little bit of a wake-up call. Just say, hey, just need to calm down a little bit. I've got so much longer in this race to go. It's okay that I've given this up now. Let's just crack on and try and solidify a podium finish for myself.
That's all he's got to do is just knuckle in, think of the long game. And like we said, 58 laps to go here, so he's definitely going to think of that. Logsdale now, he's got to be smart. He's got to just drive within himself still. And of course, Zippy Zeal, he is under all sorts of pressure now from Fewens, and I know Fewens would want that spot. Jace, pretty hard competitor, and he will be definitely after it. As we see Fewens getting the line, you see he's closing that gap a little bit, coming down into doing a little bit off the curb, gets himself back in line, gets himself out into the centre going into the southern loop. Locks it in, very tricky not to overheat the tyres through here and keep the power down as well. Good twitchy exit. You can see Zippy probably could have gone a little bit wider on his exit there, but he gets it going down into down into Stoner and coming down now into Miller. Takes the line in the middle a little bit. You can see sort of a bit further back, Heddersfield going a little bit wider than the rest of them, trying to get a good exit. And definitely though, Zippy under a lot of pressure here, Hamish.
Yeah, Fewens is applying the pressure to an absolute maximum for Zippy. He'd be hoping he can end up like a diamond, since they claim pressure creates diamonds. He does not want to end up like what's on his bonnet, unfortunately for Zippy. So hopefully he can keep himself in check and keep himself ahead of Fewens. You can see the gap ahead of Zippy at the moment. Let's get a good view of that bonnet. To Mick Clifton, he's not quite running away from things. So, you know, Adrian's staying within this fight. He's staying within this top 5. He's definitely got pace at Phillip Island. It's whether he can maximise on that qualifying and just run that consistent lap pace. I think that's where he's really struggled this season. Is he's had some great qualifying performances, but he hasn't managed to actually back it up in a racing scenario, whether that comes down to confidence when in battles or just the ability to run the consistent laps. He's definitely got speed. It's whether he can unlock that next gear and really start to form that tenacious driver inside of his mind that he takes into qualifying. He needs to be able to take that into the race as well. As Scott Weston has gone off the road down at turn 4. It doesn't look like anyone's been involved with him. I think this might have been self-inflicted, John, but an unfortunate night for the West Australian. Luckily for him, he doesn't have to race till 10 o'clock. He only has to race till, well, probably as late as 9:30 realistically, but yeah, tough night already for him so early on in this race as Andrew Hoffman brings his car into pit lane.
Tough smoke there, so hopefully he hasn't got himself a drive-through. Sorry, a 40-second stop and hold as he pulls up at the box. Nicely cruises down the lane, consistent in gear, down 1, allowed to do that. Puts the wipers on.
He actually blew his engine.
Ah!
That's why there was smoke, John. I think he actually blew his engine, which was why there was smoke. It's unfortunate for Hoffy.
No. He's in the wars, isn't he?
No, he really is. No strain. He'll market it as he hasn't blown his engine for a while, but we all know that Hoffy's no stranger to having a blown engine every now and again. So it's unfortunate for him. He's about to go a lap down on the leaders as he exits pit lane once again. But yeah, he's got so much more to get back in this race. He will now be hoping for a safety car, John, just to get that lap back and get back into the fight for maybe a possible top 20 in this race now.
Yeah, definitely still the battle going on. You can see Barnett's just nicely still holding that 1.5 second behind, slowly pegging Logsdale back. And Vandermeulen, he is sitting about 5 seconds behind these guys. So it's really just these two boys out in front battling on at the moment. But, you know, behind Van der Meulen, we've got Clifton. Clifton in the chat saying he's starting to struggle about now. Yeah, a few boys are starting to struggle about now.
Well, he was crook as well in this race, John, as well. So that's definitely not going to help him too.
Yeah, definitely would not want to be crook doing a 2-hour race. That is gutsy even just to turn up and have a crack. Hats off to you, Mick. As you can see though, Heddersfield here, sorry, Mick Clifton here, he's doing quite well. Heddersfield in the back, he's fully floored, all right, fully floored on trying to get past that car in front of him who's lost that spot. So Zippy Zeal's the next man up the road for Heddersfield. Zippy would be coming under a bit of pressure now. I bet you there'd be no fun factual comments going on in their Discord. He'd be all quiet and working hard.
Fun fact, Zippy is sweating right now. That's the fun fact from Zippy on that one. As they run through turn 11, you can just see the pressure that is being applied. Heddersfield is pushing this car to its absolute maximum. You saw the rear just get that little bit loose, which you know is it's quite often happens at that corner. It's one of those biggest danger spots. You run around, feel like you've had a good lap at Phillip Island. You can lose it all at turn 11 just by putting the throttle on a little bit too aggressively. But Zippy, his car's looking relatively smooth. I just don't know if it's looking particularly racy at the moment. Now, whether that comes down to he's just not wanting to fight and he's wanting to play the long game more so, which can be smart. But when you are starting inside of the top 10, I think you've got to have that little bit of tenacity about you, John, where you are willing to fight for position or maybe not give it up so easily. But I don't know, it doesn't seem like his car is looking ultra pacey at the moment.
No, and he's driving slightly defensive as well, as we saw just then going into Miller. You know, he was pretty much in the centre of the circuit. Could have gone out a little bit wider, opened up the apex, get a bit better drive coming out. So I think he might be just looking after that car a little bit and just being a little bit protective of what's behind him. He's probably thinking to himself, Weiger's another second and a half back behind Heddersfield. So if I can stay here, we've got a nice little battle between the two of us. And, Fewens is just within striking distance in front of me. I can hang on to him and hope that he can carry us up to Clifton. Clifton running by himself, where, if you've got the cars running in a group, sometimes if you work together, you can make yourselves quicker, or if you start fighting each other, you're just going to slow yourselves down.
You'll see as well, this battle pack in behind them, Rick Weiger, Jamie Peters, Todd Duggan, Lorne Mackay at the moment. These guys aren't really losing too much pace to the cars ahead, it seems, John. They're still sitting around about 2 seconds behind it. I don't think they're actually battling too hard at this point. It seems that they're more or less in a line of stern, although Todd Duggan's going to make a liar out of me trying to go for it at turn 1. Peters covers that line inside. Nicely done there from the 950. As mentioned, his final outing for his current team before he moves on to be a privateer once again in season 23. Whether he's re-signed up or not, I'm not sure.
He signed up to the league. Yep, he's back next season.
No, yep, there we go. So he'll hope to have a solid run next season for himself as a privateer in Split 2 once again. Will JP. And I think just life getting in the way of being able to commit to a team and wanting to, I don't know, maybe find the fun again in sim racing is the way he sold it to me at least. So I think that's completely fair, and hoping that Jamie can get some solid performances. Maybe he can get his first win in Split 2. He has had a podium. He's yet to have a win, though, in Split 2. So we'll see if that works out for him next season. Rick Weiger, though, and is he trying to just get a consistent run in season 22? Could season 23 be his season once again? Might need to be a little bit more work done from the Weigers, maybe just to work together a little bit more, John, and find some more pace to end up back up at the front of town, because it's been struggle street for a couple of seasons for them.
Oh, I know Rick's been a busy boy as well in the background behind the scenes of the ASR boys, particularly for their Tuesday night races, and also trying to get their Enduro series off the ground. So I know Rick's been busy concentrating on that as well. So maybe taking away from a bit of seat time. I know running the league does take away a lot of your seat time. So could be a little bit going on with that. But, don't rule out Rick, though. He's always a very, very crafty driver. Might be down a little bit on pace, but does drive with quite a fair bit of smarts.
I think he's always... I feel like you come into a round and both Rick and Chad, they're always a chance for a podium before you even see any lap times. You have a feeling, I could see one of the Weigers getting a podium tonight or getting a top 5. And think it more or less comes down to how comfortable they are with the setup and the track, and how many laps they've gotten in across the week as well. So hopefully, the more settled they get into running their league and the more streamlined that becomes, the better that works out for them in terms of getting comfortable in the car again. And I mean, this is a brand new car, to be fair. This season, everyone's been in the same boat. They've had this car as long as each other. So they've had as much time to get comfortable in the car. We're really only going to see this progress more and more, maybe even after a year in the car, where we start to see drivers have had this car a lot less in terms of time of ownership and time of being able to get that seat time, as I mentioned, that we'll really start to see the progression levels of certain drivers. So maybe as the year progresses, we see some different drivers start to break the mold a little bit, John, and break forward. The more they get comfortable in this car. I mean, for my money, when I first drove this car, I felt more comfortable in this than I did in the Gen 2. I hadn't driven the Gen 2 for a long time, and then I had done a little bit last season just in some test sessions for myself. But as soon as I hopped into this Gen 3 car, I felt comfortable. Aside from the fact that I blew the engine my first lap at Watkins on the bump at the end of the straight. Aside from that, when I actually got into some solid runs, some solid stint running, it was very comfortable. And it felt like you could set up around this car and set up around your driving style when you were running open setups. And I don't know, it almost promotes confident driving more so than the Gen 2 car did for me personally. I mean, how have you found it? Because you're obviously racing every week, and
yeah, look, I've found it to be a little, like I said, it's been a little bit of a leveler at the start, and you can see who's now got the seat time, who's put the legwork in. But I think the other thing is it's also that muscle memory. The gearing is different, the braking points are different. Your high speed corners are different and feel different. You've got to treat them. You got to break into some of them where before you could just carry that speed through the Gen 2 with the downforce. In saying that, I think this car's probably a little bit easier to drive, but you don't get that freebie that we were getting out of drafting down straights like we'd see here at the Gardner Straight, where you could just draft sit behind somebody and just pull out at the end of the straight and say, I am here. You have to actually earn it now. You've got to get that exit speed out of the corner to be able to set yourself up to be able to make that move. And I think that rewards good driving, being able to get that set up. The other thing that we've seen this season, which was talk of the town in the chat this morning, of course, is the debris that we see on track, and the fact that, if there is debris there or marbles on the track, if you do go wide by mistake, you might be only half a car width wide on the corner, but you might find yourself getting some tyre deg from the marbles as you go across them. I know on 1 or 2 races this year where we've had sand across the track, and I've noticed you've gone into the corner and the understeer has just been woeful as you've gone across the debris. So that's come into play as well, and that's made it harder to pass people in itself, but it's also made it easier to pass people if people in front of you make mistakes. So you've just got to be able to pressure still to get those mistakes out of the driver in front. And then, of course, a 2-hour race like we've got tonight, you've got other factors such as fatigue and everything else kicking in to put into your race battle.
I think as well, it's, you mentioned you don't quite have the luxury in this car of you can go for a move after getting the toe down a straight, because once you pull out of the toe, your car's, it's like it hits a brick wall. It does not want to go anywhere. I think this car promotes more we mentioned a lot in the past of maximizing runs in and out of corners to try and get as much pace as you can on exit, and it's very, very crucial in these cars. If you can maximize runs, it sets you up so much better, because getting on that throttle a little bit smoother, a little bit earlier than your competitors in front of you, it will make your job that little bit easier when you are trying to go for a move whilst pulling out of the toe, because you don't necessarily want to be set up in a position where once you hop out of the toe, your pace drops and it's at the same as the other car, so you're not actually going anywhere. You want to try and get the job done as you're getting up to pace, more so than when you're at maximum pace. So it's a real balancing act, and I think, and as I said, the more drivers learn these cars, the more nuances they'll learn. One of the first things I saw of how to get pace out of this car was Brody Kostecki at Watkins Glen was just riding the absolute rears in these cars to get so much pace out of it. the way that he would run up the hill through turn 2, 3, 4, the car would just slide, and you'd think it's going to hit the wall on the right-hand side, but it just didn't. And he was able to carry so much pace through there. It was ridiculous. Now, yes, that comes down to setup and comes down to how you progress your setup during the week, and it's not really a factor, obviously, in vets being fixed setup. But one thing that I found interesting as well is the brake bias differences in this car compared to the last car. Gen 2, when it first came out, I was running a lot more rearward bias, below 50%. This car, you're above 60% majority of the time in your brake bias. And it's crazy to me how that can work out as Viger and Peters come into pit lane for their first stop of this race, lap 20 of 68. So it's interesting how that can...
looking for the undercut.
Exactly, and we know how strong the undercut can be in these cars and how that can work in your favour. Because you get out there, fresh tyres, yes, you got a little bit more fuel, but mainly the fresh tyres and the clean air, it can give you so much of an advantage in your strategy, where when people are stuck in a battle, they're giving up so much time comparatively to even when we were in Gen 2, as Header Sheets just run a little bit wide off the exit of turn 2 up towards Stoner, but he's kept it going ahead of Mackay and Duggan at the moment. But Duggan is scrambling here to try and defend this position as hard as possible. This is playing into the hands now, though, of Peters and Viger, because the more these guys battle, the more scrambled they get, the more time they're giving up to those drivers who've come into pit lane.
It's also brought Arnie, Fisher, Haynes, Blanchard's just about to latch onto the back of this group as well. Caperonis ain't that far behind either. So, that battle we've just seen has definitely started to bunch the group up behind as well. So, mate, if this undercut, the kid believes doesn't work, if it does pay off, those two will be sitting pretty, getting themselves a jump in front of that pack of Duggan. Going to be interesting to see, though. And, of course, you've just got to time it right. If you're being held up, like I said, it's not easy to pass. If you're being held up, you've got to try something different. If you can get yourself out into free air, not sure you got a track map or anything. You get yourself out into free air, you can get that lap time back. Lush fresh tyres gives you a nice boost as well. So anything is possible, as we see Duggan into the lane now.
Yes, indeed. I've just brought the track map up just for a second, just to compare.
Yep.
Where Peters and Viger are. They're up at Hayshed at the moment, so this could be quite close. The pit stop times were...
Well, they're still together, but they've got clear air in front. Actually. Yeah, but clear air in front, so definitely a battle going to be on here. But Viger's got that open space. He's got no one in front of him. Can't see any other car for days.
Yeah, Duggan's probably got about another at least 6 seconds on his pit stop as well, so this is going to be close on exit for Rick Viger, but I actually think it's going to be maybe not so close, because they're rocketing through. 35 seconds for Todd Duggan. He's only just dropped out of the box. Rick Viger has undercut to perfection.
Yep, big jump. You see Duggan still not quite up to speed, coming out in the pack behind, so expect Fisher and Hayes probably to get a jump there as well if we're lucky. We'll see that when they come through. So I think he's going to be the big winner there, as we're seeing our race leader. Sorry, our second man, our championship leader, Mr. Logan Barnett, into the lane. And the Dutch plumber, Sean van der Meulen, comes in behind him.
Yeah, his teammate for next season, John.
Yes.
Ironically, They're coming in together. Maybe they're already sharing strategy secrets together at this point. Who knows? But they are both in pit lane, as is Simon Heddersheed, Dave Arney, Simon Haynes as well. Dean Logsdale still leads the way as he runs down towards turn 4. So Haynes is in. Let's see where he actually ends up comparatively to Todd Duggan as well, because he may still end up coming out ahead of Duggan too. It's really going to depend on how long the stop is for Haynes. They've all taken roughly about 35 to 37 seconds. So that's, I think it's roughly about 80 litres or so that they've all taken in this pit stop. So they're looking at, well, they're going for the 50-50 strategy pretty much, of probably 83 on both stops, just to get a nice even run. There was the alternate of you take 100 on your first stop and then you take the shorter stop later, which can work in your favour, especially in the longer races, because if you can get out in that clean air for longer with that heavier fuel load, you will find benefit later in the race, especially the longer that these guys battle. As Duggan and Peters and Viger streamline past, Simon Haynes has only just dropped out of the box, but it was a long stop, 48.4 seconds. I reckon Haynes has taken the 100 litres here, John, as Logsdale
And probably a
comes
bit
in.
more.
Maybe, yeah. Might have.
And probably a little bit more.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see that. I'm interested in Logsdale in the lane as well. Of course, Logsdale, the former bike racer himself. So it'd be interesting to know whether Dean has actually been around this place on 2 wheels. Probably a very good insight of the track. He has done that. And as you can see, Barnett now absolutely twitchy in the car as well, trying to get it back up to speed. And its tyres up to 10.
This could be close, John, because we saw where Peters and Viger were before during Duggan's stop. They were roughly at Siberia, and they came out a long way past Duggan, probably about a second or so. So this could be tight for Logsdale. He may come out right ahead of Barnett, but Barnett's going to be screaming down the Gardner Straight at full pace. He might get him before turn 1. No, he's not. Logsdale's just come out. So Logsdale's just exited. Yeah.
And if I can get that up on my screen here, which is always interesting to see. And of course, Logsdale was stopped for 34.26 seconds, Barnett 37 seconds. So Logsdale's short field compared to Barnett. So that's a big difference there, considering where Barnett is sitting right behind him.
Well,
so
you look at the time difference, 3.8 seconds. Now the benefit is for Logsdale, his teammate Damon Fisher is parked right in front of Logan Barnett. So we may see Fisher try and hold up Barnett's run to maybe extend that time out to 5 seconds to guarantee Logsdale come out ahead of him. He's not, though. Barnett's just going to make a liar out of me, as is Fisher. Tucks up the inside, gets the job done. So that 8.4 second gap relatively is probably about 5 seconds because of the fuel differences between them, John. So Barnett, 20-odd laps. He can maybe close that 5 second gap, depending on his lap pace.
yeah, he could do that. Definitely interesting to see how we go. Brett, as we see Nick Hasler heading into the lane now, he's probably going to be the last of our stoppers.
Well,
I think
Boyd,
Ricky Hyde and Stacey Boyd have still got to go in.
Yeah, they do. Boyd's kept going. He wants to take the extra point for leading a lap. Ricky Hyde comes in behind Nick Hasler as well. So when Stacey Boyd takes his next scheduled pit stop, Dean Logsdale will retake the lead of this race. Remembering they started with 80 litres tonight, John, so they're trying to pretty much go perfect thirds in this race. So for Boyd, he's guaranteed now he will make it home on 2 more thirds, but makes the maths a little bit easier for them and maybe gives them a little bit of room to play with the fuel strategy as well.
We always, when we do the numbers and stuff, we always make sure there is something there to play with. Like, we don't want to have it follow the leader strat. So it's good to see a few guys doing a few things different. Like we're seeing, Fisher was in for 23 seconds. We've seen guys that have been in for 37 seconds, 38 seconds. So they've definitely mixed up their fuel strats, which is good.
Boyd runs around further back. Todd Duggan is now hot on the heels of Jamie Peters once again here, as they fight forward once again. Mick Clifton, who's been, well, undoubtedly in the illness wars this evening, the fatigue that would already be applied to him from being ill, plus as well the fatigue of racing already for a third of this race. It will be getting to him in the cockpit of that Accelerate Sim Racing Primal Wheels entry. But he's been on the rise. He's been on the rise though, hasn't he, John? He's really been working his way up the order.
Oh yeah, Mick being coached, of course, by Greg Favell. He has definitely improved over the last 12 months as a driver, and we just keep seeing him get better and better. And definitely looking to be able to build this strategy that he's got here. And I think if he can hold off Arnie, he's gone a bit wide. Arnie's got through, but he commentator's curse.
Yeah, I think you might have cursed him there, John, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate, as he's now got Chad Viger hot on his heels. At least he has got a rear gunner in Lorne Mackay, his teammate, lining up behind him. I tell you what, though, Accelerate Sim Racing, they know how to make an orange livery look nice, John. The last 2 entries of this orange car has been immaculate. And I'm excited to see what they bring out next with whether they change it next season or it's a couple of seasons' time. They know how to dress a car, and it looks incredibly special out there on track.
I tell you what, Lorne looking very racy behind here as well. and so is Jim Caparonis. So this group has bunched right up. Definitely keep an eye on this group. Oh, here we go. Lorne's having a look. Oh,
Oh, there's
No.
contact with Chad and Mick, though.
I think we've just seen some accelerate on accelerate action there.
They need to
I
start
think
racing for Shadow Racing, John. They need Racecraft on the side of their car.
Absolutely. Bit of player one and player one action.
Oh, player one. That's what it was, player one.
So Mick Clifton in the Lorne McKee there. So that is not a good one. Anyway, they're all moving forward in the right direction.
I would not want to be Greg Favell in that scenario, having to play referee between them.
Oh, Greg's got plenty of experience doing that. Just race control and split one.
Very true. Just tell them to create a ticket and contact admin. That'll fix it.
Fixes everything, doesn't it?
It does. Yeah, it gets a question about it. Contact the admin. I'm not admin.
As we can see, we have the one and only Blanchy tucked right up behind big Jim Caparonis. What can the Greek god do? He's under a lot of pressure here. We'll see how he can handle this one.
There's a bit of wear and tear on the front of that SCR car, John. I feel like someone may have dropped their burger as soon as they bought it from Chubby Buns at this stage. It's looking a bit stepped on in front of that Mustang.
Tell you what, if you've dropped your Chubby Buns burger, you'd be crying.
Oh, I'm sure I would, especially for the fact of I'd have to travel all the way to New South Wales just to get it.
It's worth the drive, trust me.
Cool. As Blanchy wants it up the inside at Miller, and it's another one. Two laps in a row. A dive at Miller has caused a spin.
All I'm going to say to that one, all I'm going to say about that one is the great words from Gunther von Nordschleife. First tap's a warning, second tap's you're off.
I was waiting for it to come out, I'll be honest, John. I was waiting for us to get a Gunther little reference in there at some point, but Blanchy may be flamed upon from race control for that one. We'll have to wait and see what they say and how they come back to it for the 669.
Of course, Gunther getting camera time tonight at Race of Champions.
Oh, he'd always be getting camera time at Race of Champions. He is the champion of a race.
Okay, and as we saw last night, got handed the broom by the one and only Valtteri Bottas.
For Blanchard, though, good old Gunther.
Yeah, for Blanchy, though, he is in the wars here. I think he's going to have...
He really is.
Please explain.
Very well might have to come through the pit lane, I must say. And I think for Lorne, it could be a similar scenario as well. It's quite interesting. You rarely get two almost identical incidents 2 laps in a row like that. But at this stage, we do. So
I'm sure Dave Coleman will be working very hard in the background, analysing what happened. What to do next.
I'm sure that Coleman will be sipping on his flask that he finally received and trying to come up with decisions on who's going to get drive-throughs for this one, and the fact that he'd have to give it to either Blanchard or Mackay or both of them as well. And I have to wonder, he drove with Accelerate for the Sandown 500 back in December, John. Do we think maybe he would feel more harsh towards them now? Because I know if I was a race controller against my own drivers, they'd be getting the book thrown at them every time because they should know better.
Yeah, you do go like that. I know though most of the time, or not most of the time, all the time it should be. I know with the Pro Series and everything else, that as soon as someone who has any involvement in a team is involved, everybody takes a step back, and hands it over to other people to do things, just to keep it, get rid of that conflict of interest and keep it honest. It is a tough gig, but yeah, when you do start looking at things from a team perspective, like I know myself, and I look at incidents that the guys go, have a look at this. No, I was in the right. And it's like, no, you weren't.
Yeah, I'm often playing.
You have that hard conversation.
I'm often playing post-race race control for them. It's like, no, hang on, let's have a look at this. All angles. No, it's your fault, or it's NFA. So, and they normally just accept it for what it is when that happens. So, I think it's just if they get that second opinion, as long as they're willing to accept that their original opinion may be incorrect, I think it's fine.
Well, the thing you got to remember too is like when you're sitting in the car with the adrenaline going in mid-race and you're involved in an incident, you don't see it to the nth degree that the guys in race control do. Like Pete Baxter is so methodical with the way he breaks down an incident and the way he analyzes an incident, and goes through his sequence of camera views to make his adjudication, and it is so methodical that you sitting in the car have got no idea what's happened to you compared to what he's looked at.
The amount of angles that RC do, I mean, across a multitude of leagues, the amount of pinpoint accuracy you need to have of actually looking at an incident, then determining, and sometimes you do get some of those challenging ones where from a first, proper look, it's like, oh, we're not really quite sure, and that's normally when it would go to post-race review, because sometimes you need that different opinion. But sometimes it's also, very clear cut of you look at it from rear chase and you're like, yep, this person wasn't alongside before turn in. If that's one of their rules, they're getting a penalty or whatever it may be. And when it is a league that's run by rules, which a lot of iRacing leagues are, it makes it easier to come up with those decisions on penalties, because it means you have got a structure that you have to follow when trying to hand out those penalties as well. So I think a lot of drivers would benefit from understanding not only race control processes, even if it's not in vets, even if you go and learn race control processes from another league, it at least gives you a structure to understand how race control goes about making decisions. And then as well as the fact of, if you read and learn the rule book, you will then understand better, because it's a league run by rules. So if you understand the rules, you'll understand when you may be in the wrong and when someone else may not be.
That's exactly right. And like Dean Logsdale, classic example, leading this race, he jumped in with Pete Baxter and did race control / safety car for the over 60s championships that we had during this season. And I think Luke Allman's already put his hand up to come and do the same thing for the over 50s next season. And, it's amazing what you learn. Even Scotty Perrins has been hanging out in race control this season, having a season off of moving house. It is definitely well worth doing. And what you see and what you learn is quite amazing.
So we are lap 30 of 68 at this point of the race. Dean Logsdale leads the way, 9.3 seconds over Logan Barnett, so he's got some pace over the championship elect at the moment, does Dean Logsdale. Damon Fisher, P3 at the moment. Chris Blanchard is in pit lane. I've heard from Race Control it's a drive-through penalty for the contact down at Miller Corner with Jim Caparonis, and Lorne Mackay was handed out the exact same one there, John. So both of them have been found guilty of all charges from Race Control. At this point at
Blanchy. You're not going to get the chubby bun. You're not going to get the chubby buns driver of the day taking you out, Jim.
No. I feel like you'd have to be null and void. Just your name is crossed out if you take out the sponsor of the award. You lose all credibility at that point. We see though Fisher's got Sean Vandermeulen hot on his heels at this stage. Jace Fewens inside the top 5 as well. About 11 seconds back is Simon Heddersheed, who's got Rick Feiger in an intense battle with Todd Duggan at this point. Who can forget the championship rivalry that Duggan and Feiger had so many seasons ago? It feels like a lifetime ago at this point. It was over a year ago that these two were battling for championships here in Split 2, and they still find each other on track most weeks. It's quite amazing how that can play out, even with changing of championship structures and changing of formats or changing of measuring systems, that drivers like this who were battling it tooth and nail for championships can still be battling just as intently inside of a top 10 in the final race of season 22. It's amazing.
Yeah, it is. And it just shows the caliber of drivers and the strength of what we've got within the league. Like, 197 drivers already signed up for next season, 3 spots left. So if you are one of these ones that have not got your entry in yet for season 23, I'd get it done ASAP, because those 3 spots won't hang around very long. And I know there are some season 22 drivers that have not re-entered as well. So, if you haven't, there's not much we can do about it once the horse is bolted, unfortunately. But yeah, it's amazing how these rivalries that you talk about, Hamish, they've been going for a long time, and it's been great to see the competition, the battling. This is one of your cars. Who's this?
It's Peters.
Jamie Peters.
And I have if you saw his wheel then, John, as he should actually come back to existence in a second. Yeah, it's because he disconnected his wheel. I think that might have been his wheel playing funny buggers once again and putting him into the wall, just based on how hard lock those front wheels were to the left.
Yeah, that is not great. That is not great at all. And the front of that car is very second-hand.
No, not the bill I'd want to front in a driver's last race for my team. But no,
I was about to say, is he giving you a farewell here?
Well, might be leaving me with an invoice at this point, but no. No, it's obviously you'd want the perfect crescendo to a driver in your team, and it's not the way that we would have wanted at least his race to have gone at this point. It's still a while to go. We're only halfway through, so he could still come back from this point, but without safety cars, it's looking less and less likely for Jamie, which is unfortunate. But hopefully, you know, his season next season out as a privateer, he can go better and maybe find himself back in the top 10 of the championship again as well. At this stage, though, he's already trying to make moves as Damon Fisher comes out of pit lane, drops the spot to Peters now as well. He's in behind Sean Cullen. Further up, though, Vandermeulen and Fewens now battling for P3 after Fisher has come through the pit lane. So an earlier stop for Damon means he has to come in at the halfway point of the race. It's a long way to go on tyres, though, for Damon Fisher. He came in lap 30, end of 31, start of 32. Means he has to go, quick maths, 38 laps on a set of tyres. That's gonna hurt. That's almost like a full stint at Bathurst. I'd rather not do that, personally, but it may pay out. If it pays off for him in the fact of you get a safety car late, you just tuck in, take some tyres, and then you've got a rubber advantage at the end of the race. So that could pay out for him, but at this stage, it's not looking like we are going to get any safety cars, seeing as we've gone 32 laps without them at this point. So we'll see if it pays off for Damon, though. Todd Duggan is still in this battle, though, with Rick Viger. Adrian Zeal still inside the top 10. Dave Arney as well has landed himself inside the 10 with Chad Viger trying to chase them down as Duggan wants the job down the inside at 1. Viger gives him plenty of room down the inside. Job done for Todd Duggan. And that there is what we spoke about, John. That little bit of tango between the drivers where they to and fro together. And a little bit of room left works out well because both of them survive and they get to battle another day.
Exactly, but this battle still has Arnie tucked into the back of it as well, so that's definitely going to keep these guys very honest. And, you know, with Arnie in there, Zippy Zeal in there, it is definitely still an opportunity here for Toddy Duggan now to get away, and hope that Rick Viger will be the one those boys battle with. So for Rick, you got to keep the eyes front, not get distracted by that weird looking hood ornament that Zippy's running this season.
I've just had a quiet message from a prospect of commentary in future. I'll have to talk about it later. So I'm just quickly responding to that because
you're right.
Yeah, but at this stage, I mean, we're halfway through. Actually, you know what? We'll take this time actually because we are halfway through the race. We've not gone with the safety car just yet. So what we'll do is we'll take this time just to thank our sponsors at Racecraft Simulations by giving them some screen time and by showing off some wonderful pieces of kit that they have on offer. If you guys are in the WA or Perth area, be sure to head over to 19 Grogan Road, Perth Airport. Check out Racecraft Simulations, have a chat to John and the team. You can test out some of their rigs. You can also maybe even purchase yourself one if you've got a little bit of spare coin. If you live outside of WA, you can order a rig and it will get delivered straight to your door. So be sure to check them out. But enjoy these messages from Racecraft Simulations. We'll be back very soon. Great to be back, ladies and gentlemen, on the commencement of lap 36 of this race. I have to correct myself. I got the address wrong. It was 16 Grogan Road, Perth Airport. But realistically, if you'd gone to 19, you would have found the address anyway. But still, great to be supported by Racekraft Simulations and John over there, of course. So you head over to 16 Grogan Road, Perth Airport. Check out some of those fantastic rigs that they have on display. And as I said, if you've got a bit of spare coin, maybe invest in a PT1 for yourself as well. Got to give a shout out though to all of our other series sponsors too: Logitech G, Player One Sim Gear, Nova Sim Sports, Sud Speed Gloves, Parramatta Isuzu Ute, Chubby Buns Burgers for providing us with the Driver of the Day award, as well as LGC Images too. So, but John, we come back and we didn't really get to talk about it live on air, but Todd Duggan got a bit of a serving from Rick Viger during that ad break there up at Siberia. So unfortunately for Todd, he's now dropped down the order. And we'll see if Rick maybe gets a penalty coming his way or not. I'm not sure.
We'll find out shortly from the stewards, I'd imagine. But yeah, poor Todd had been running very well, so I think he'd be a little bit down on himself. But he's still, was about to say we're still in the top 10. He's just dropping down again.
Yeah, it's
missing
down at
Miller
Miller
this time. Oh,
it's amazing. It's amazing how the dominoes can fall, isn't it, John? Just you have one moment, and then all of a sudden they just come crashing down on you more and more throughout the race. It's very unfortunate for Todd.
Yeah, very unfortunate for Todd. Just got to get his composure back. Of course, you do get involved in one little incident, you lose your mojo, you lose that rhythm. You get, a little bit of red mist might set into the cockpit, and you've got to get your composure back. Otherwise, it's going to cost you even more and more and more. Luckily, the car looks straight, so hopefully Todd can work his way back up again from here, but long way to go still in the race. I think just past halfway. But definitely still heaps to go. And we have a Mustang banger. So I don't know whether race control's seen that one. But definitely a bit of a battle here as well. As we can see these guys here heading down Alistair Bales, looking to get himself past Jeremy Bush, or Jeremy Bush is getting past Alistair Bales. Good to see Bushy running the Locked On Lads livery. And if you are watching Wilco, we need another podcast. Been a while. If you haven't had a chance to listen to Wilco's podcasts for the Locked On Lads, some of the older ones, he talks about joining vets and what it meant to be part of vets, and then gives a debrief of his racing with vets and the trials and tribulations that go with it. So it was actually quite really interesting listening to Wilco talk about his iRacing journey.
Yeah, well, speaking of, well, not just live streams, but streams in general. Of course, we used to do the podcast in the vets. Unfortunately, my schedule got very busy. Fortunate for me, unfortunate for the podcast. But I do want to give a quick shout out to everyone who is joining us here tonight in the chat. Sean Vandermill and Wayne Sanderson, Luke Goldman with us. Blake Warboys hopped in earlier. Is that the beautiful voice of JVR I hear? It is indeed Blake. Haggis866. I'm going to assume that's Ray Smith joining us. Jamie McKnight has been very vocal in the chat thus far tonight. It's great to see. Simon Haynes out there too. Damon Fisher, Dean Logsdale, BG 89 now instead of BG 36. So he's changed his name on YouTube. Matt Monday's out there with us, as well as Mick Clifton as well. The artist formerly known as Frank Muggleton, aka Mick Muggleton. As well as Jace Fewens is with us too in there as well in the chat. Logan Barnett's out there too. Reese DeGoey has joined us as well here this evening as well. So great to have you all with us. Great to have you all joining us in the chat. Darren Linus out there too. Dean is absolutely taking names. Really goes to show what some determination, a lot of practice can do for you. Great job, mate. Dean is on absolute fire. And at this stage, he's, when he crosses the line, 30 laps away, John, from a split one appearance next season to make it 2 Team AJR cars up there for the first time in their history. So this would be a phenomenal achievement for that team. We found out, not so seriously, but also very seriously, that Andrew Rushworth, DK, his initials are AJR. I think he might be the secret Saudi oil financial backer of Team AJR.
See, he is the sheep magnet of...
Yeah, exactly.
There we go. I was about to say the old Team AJR. If Logsdale gets himself into split one, I reckon there'll be a parade of sheep down the street over in New Zealand.
Surely there would. I wonder if they've already booked the tour bus for them if they ever win a championship up in split one.
No, I reckon they would. AJ loves his sim racing. He's put together a good team of lads. Remember him having a chat to me, talking about stepping out and doing it. As you've seen, for those who've been following online, the build of what I'm calling the boudoir of race setups, of sim setups, particularly with his red neon signage on it now.
I was about to say, he's got his own red light district out in that shed now as Mr. AJ, so...
But the bloke is very passionate about sim racing. Actually, a lot of people don't realise AJ was actually a season 1. So he's actually one of the OGs of vets. Been around for a very, very long time. Absolutely cracking bloke. Gives anything a go. One of the most shyest guys you'll ever meet to do a broadcast. But he's done well. He's done 2 seasons now of the AJR broadcasting. And that's only getting better and better each season. As you know, Hamish, it's not the easiest thing in the world to do, to talk and press buttons at the same time.
No, it's not. It's not. And he has got a great support network around him of more of those AJR drivers and some others as well who come in and join him each Saturday before the Split 2 show as well. So it's great that those guys are in there supporting him. I do hop in there when I have got time available to me every now and again, just to see how everything's going and to, if they're a bit light on hands, I'll come in and just help be a bit of a support for him as well, just as he tries to traverse the wondrous world of SDK producing. It's not a fun time to learn, I'll say that, but we'll see where AJ ends up. I mean, I worked out. I mean, tonight's my 90th Vets broadcast, John. By the time we get to round 10 next season, it'll be my 100th. And
I've been meaning to count, but I got no idea.
Oh no, I've been keeping count. Don't worry. I'm at 356 total iRacing broadcasts, I believe. But we'll get to AJ's 100th if he makes it there. And he probably, he would have gotten to a point where he would not want to watch as Dean Logsdale. I'm sure AJ doesn't want to watch right now. Mistake at turn 10 off the road at MG for Logsdale. So a mistake there from the Englishman. Drops him off the road. And there's Barnett. It will hurt. So the point I was about to make before that wild moment happened is AJ will probably look back and won't want to watch his first few broadcasts back like me, because he would have realised how far he's come and might feel a little bit, I don't want to say embarrassed, because I sometimes feel embarrassed looking at my first shows. I'm like, oh my God, why did I do this? But it's all a part of the learning process, John, and getting used to it and getting up to speed. And, everyone, I'm not perfect. I don't think anyone's necessarily perfect in their broadcasting or production or commentary, but it's the willingness to suck early is what's going to make you a good commentator. Because if you're not too hard on yourself early, it makes it easier for you to get up to speed and get comfortable. And then later on, you can be a bit harder on yourself, as he is. Barnett is pushing that car. He smells blood in the waters of Phillip Island right now, and it's unfortunately for Dean Logsdale, his blood that Logan Barnett can smell.
Oh, definitely. Here we go. Dean was lighting a smoke. There we go. Smoking's no good for you, Dean. You just proved it.
Just don't do what John Gallen did and drop your vape. Then that'll cause you to crash.
Oh. Anyway, it is Barnett here. Might just go back a little bit. Have a look at Jeremy Bush, Sanderson, Clifton, Caparonis. They are absolutely in the thick of it again, these lads. Look at them all lining up, nose to tail. The old lemmings. Let's follow the leader as we've got Sanderson representing that Southern Cross Racing. He's absolutely in the thick of it. I know Hoffy's been working very hard with the lads, so
it's quite interesting, John. I came into this season thinking Trent Allen could be I think it's the first person, at least for a long time, that someone's gone from split 3 to split 2 to split 1. Trent hasn't been here majority of this season, whatever it is, work, life getting in his way. I still think Trent will be someone that in his next full season is split 2. It'll be his only season in split 2. He'll go straight up to split 1 straight afterwards, just based on how quick he's been. But what's interesting is Wayne Sanderson has pulled off an almost Gary Buckland-esque silent assassin type of role this season, where he's constantly been up and around the top 10. I don't think he's finished on the podium this season at all. But he sits with an opportunity to get inside of the top 5 now with Matt Muggleton out, of actually getting a split 1 opportunity for himself, straight after coming up from split 3.
And he proved with his racing in split 3 that You know, he does have some sense about him and some smarts about him, and that's what all he's really got to show. You know, as we saw with Smith, you know, Zatira had won 5 races of the season, you know, and came second in the championship. You've got to make sure, it's not just winning races, you've got to make sure everything else falls into line. You don't make mistakes. You don't get caught out with penalties. You know, and as was announced last night and typed up this morning, you know, we are overhauling the license point system going into next season, where it will be a little bit more strict. You know, try and clean up some of this racing. You know, so we're definitely looking to make sure that you've got to be able to drive a smart series. You know, and that's what Vets is about now. It's about driving smart, driving with trust, and driving with respect. You know, respecting the guys you're driving around.
I don't think it's not even necessarily just limited to Vets, John. I've found across my time that it's always the most consistent driver that becomes the champion. So, for example, for Logan Barnett, yes, he's won the most races this season, but he's been the most consistent. He hasn't made mistakes that some other drivers have made in the past. But then you look at season 20, Steve Lanyon came into that last race with the most wins. Championship was basically won. All he had to do was, I think it was finish top 16, and he'd won the title. And then he had a horrid race in the final round, which was undroppable. Had a horrid race, worst race of the season for him, and John Gallen won because John Gallen had been consistent all season, stayed in the championship fight all the way to the final round, and drove the same race he'd driven all season, which was just consistent top 10s, top 5s, and it won him a title and found him in split 1. And
yeah, absolutely.
And that's the sort of mentality that we want drivers to have. We, of course, want drivers to race. We want them to race, of course. But it's about keeping in the back of your mind, you've got to be consistent. You can win a race and then bin out the next week. That's not going to win you a title. You've got to be consistent every week. Absolutely.
You've got to be consistent. And like one of the most classic guys I like to go to when you start talking down this consistent and building a championship, Oscar Piastri's F2 season. Like, I think he only won one or maybe podiumed only in, I think, half of the remaining races. Like, he didn't go out and he wasn't flashy winning races. He was building a championship, and he did a classic job of that. And that's what you got to see in Vets now. And that's what I was saying earlier, that it's not about hot lapping anymore. So, you know, these guys that get in the practice server and go hot lap after hot lap after hot lap, you're not doing yourself any favours. No, you need to be getting out on track, getting around other cars, learning how to overtake, how to defend, how to get yourself around other people. Know who you're playing with in terms of your battle. If I'm not racing with so-and-so, why am I defending so hard and slowing myself down? Let him pass, look on the back of him and go. It's all those little idiosyncrasies that make you a good racer. And with our promotion relegation system now, it is about making yourself a good racer. If you want to be a split one driver, you have to be a good racer, not just a fast driver.
Yeah, I think you've got to have that. You know, you mentioned you've got to be a good racer. You've got to be a smart racer too. And you've got to be able to really balance that line and feather that line of how much pace am I putting into the car versus how willing am I to take risks. And I think, you know, it was mentioned on the Split 3 broadcast of risk assessment and risk assessing your championship and risk assessing your race. We look at Logan Barnett. The risk assessment for him is he does not need to push and win this race because he just needs to finish P26 or above and he's won the championship. So he comes in this race where he can just cruise on, get to the checkered flag, win a title. The pressure's on him if he has an incident issue and he drops out and has to rejoin to stay on the lead lap. That's where it then starts to get a bit hairy for him. For Logsdale, he's pushing for a race win because he's pushing to guarantee himself a top 5 in the championship, even a top 3 in the championship, and guaranteeing himself a position in Split 1 next season, which will be his first effort in doing so, and will be an incredible effort in doing so if he can do that.
Oh, absolutely. And when Dean rocked into Split 3 as a rookie, you know, he absolutely stood up there and shown what he's capable of doing. A bit like Simon Haynes, you know, you've got guys here in Split 2 that have come through Split 3, you know, and have earned their right to be here and have been very competitive with the way they go about their Split 2 driving. You know, the kid, as I said, he's only 40. He's got plenty of time ahead of him. Logsdale, a little bit older, but he's definitely going to be a worthy contender up in that higher split. Definitely looking forward to seeing how he goes up there. If he gets there, of course. Might bin it yet.
He very well may. Who knows? He might try and roll another smoke and end up in the wall.
Telling you, smoking will kill you.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah, it is a battle, and like there is really a blanket thrown over everybody, and you know I've got the fun time probably starting tomorrow night of breaking it all down and starting to get it all together. Plus, then going through the pre-qual scenario for all of our new drivers. Like we've got 10 new drivers into season 23. Like you talked about BG in your list of people in the chat talking away. BG's, Bruce Galloway is another one of our rookie drivers, been quite keenly watching a lot of our broadcasts, picking up tips and learning things as you can go. 47 years young. You're a spring chicken, Dean.
Well, then, of course, there's also returning drivers as well during that pre-qualification as well. And I was told, I'm not sure if you can confirm it for me now if you like, John. I was told by Will that he's able to pre-qualify, but since he was kind of taken out of the season early due to means, untowards him, we'll say. But because he only did one race. I'm not sure if that's true or not. That's what he told me.
Yeah, look, sure. We'll be pub testing a few people over the next week just to see where they sit. As we said in the regs, there is the first component, which is if you haven't completed 8 races, we average up your points and then apply those averages across the remaining races to 8. But for someone like Will who's only done 1 race, we're probably going to go, yeah, that's probably not quite right. That's not going to probably sit in the pub test, in which case then we've got to go, okay, what do? Do we flick the switch and say, well, you did the 1 race, but you told us you were doing the 1 race for the various reasons that you've had with your health. And we then make that pub decision, that we'll throw you back in pre-qual with everybody else, or we'll leave you where you are, or, you might benefit from a season further down again as you recover your health. So these are all conversations to be had between our management group and also, with the driver himself. So, there's all that aspect to go with it as well, Hamish.
Yeah, for sure. Just quickly, I just want to interject. Both Logan Barnett and Dean Logsdale have come into pit lane on the same lap here, John. So we're going to be keeping an eye on pit exit to see which one of them comes out ahead and how far ahead of the other person they exit pit lane. Logsdale entered his box about 9 seconds before Barnett. So Logsdale leaves. How long does Barnett sit there and wait for Logsdale?
This is the thing. There was that difference in time before.
He's actually taken a longer stop than Logsdale did. Maybe some fuel saving strategy here from Logsdale.
It could be. Logsdale only stopped for 32 and Barnett stopped for 34. So there's only 2 seconds difference. That's not a hell of a lot.
Yeah.
But it's
a longer stop both times for Barnett. So it's interesting that's how that's played out.
Yeah, very interesting. And Shane van der Meulen running around in P1 at the moment. So he'd be collecting a bonus point for that one.
Yep. Of course, he'd love to finish off his time at Nova Sim Sports by getting this car on the podium tonight, I'm sure. Be a nice way to end that run that he's had with the team over the last year before heading off to 9.5 Sim Sport next season as he enters pit lane as well. So Sean van der Meulen in the 4.51.
Yeah, let's see how long he puts it up on the jacks for, how much fuel he takes in.
It was a 36.4 second stop last time for Sean van der Meulen, so we expect him probably to do roughly around the same as Logsdale possibly over this next stop. As Logsdale runs around turn 11 and 12, van der Meulen just enters the box now, but he had quite a bit of time between him and Barnett before the pit stop started to happen. We're at lap 47 of 68, about to be lap 48, so 21 laps to go. As Logsdale crosses the line, van der Meulen drops below. He's at about 19 seconds on his stop. Simon Haynes is in 2.
And Brett Fisher stays out as well.
Yeah, as Barnett comes past. So van der Meulen's still there, just drops now. So it was a 29.69 second stop for van der Meulen. So a nice little gain. He's going to get out ahead of Jason Fewens which means that Sean Vandermeulen is on the provisional podium at this stage for Nova Sim Sports and the Pro Plumbing Supplies entry. So when Brett Fisher comes in for that next stop, John, he'll drop down the order and correct it. It'll be Logsdale, Barnett, Vandermeulen in your top 3. Fewens inside of the top 5. And Nick Hasler inside of the top 5 as well.
Yeah, Nick, though, he pitted on lap 33.
Yeah, so
he
very old
tyres.
tyres.
Yeah. So we'll see how he plays out. Going to be a little bit of a battle for him. As we can see here, we have got the Angry Birds entry here of Nick Hasler. And he has Dave Arney tucked right up behind him. So that is definitely going to play itself out there. As we can also see, I think that sits in the background, is it? Or is
That's
it
Simon Haynes, the kid. I thought
Simon Haynes, the kid.
You're his biggest fan, John. I thought you would recognise him just by looking at him. I mean,
such a great livery on the quantum racing cars. It's very difficult these days. And then iRacing did this lovely thing of throwing numbers on the windscreen, which makes it even harder to keep the eye on where the number is.
But they are a really nice car, though. I'm a big fan of the quantum racing cars. Such a good look on them. The nice blue, yellow, and black combination on them. As Brett
Definitely
Fisher enters
stand
pit
out.
lane. Oh, it does. As Vandermeulen comes past.
And look at that. He's doing very well on his swan song for Nova Sim Sports. I can already feel the tear coming out of Shane Patterson's eye as he comes around into the southern loop. Looking very stable. Car under complete control. He's definitely going to be going places. And Jason Fewens, he's still running around up in the pointy end of this race as well.
You know, fair play to Roy Clark. But this team has got a cracking looking car, John. Absolutely cracking.
Is it Roy who did it though?
I don't think he did it, but he drives it. So I'm
sure it's not Andrew Ritchie
it's the only plaudits I'm giving Roy. I'm going to be honest, John. It's the only plaudits Roy's going to get. That's because he races the car.
Yeah, but when I've switched on to the Split 3 broadcast and seen the car, it just doesn't look like that. You can't read what's written on the side.
Maybe that comes down to the oh, no, I know why. It's 'cause it's normally scratched up. That's why.
We love you, Crash.
Yeah, good old Crash Clark. He had a very poor run at Belle Isle a few weeks ago.
How's Stacey Boyd going? We haven't seen him for a little bit. He's under a bit of pressure here as well.
He's back here P14, putting the pressure on Wayne Sanderson at this stage. So Stacey as well is trying to lock in a top 5 position in the championship as well, John, to put another Nova Sim Sports car back into Split 1 next season.
Yeah, and of course, Stacey coming to us from Buffalo. This is a lovely fun fact for the league that I like to talk about. Comes to us from Buffalo, of course. Sends plenty of pics of lovely snow, which will be melting about this time of year for those guys. And we also have another American. So we have 2 Americans in the league. Jeff Eddy's back again next season. And Jeff is from Arcon, Buffalo, or Arcon, New York, which is literally about 15 Ks from Stacey Boyd. So a country the size of the States, we have 2 Americans racing in it, and they live 15 kilometres apart and don't know each other.
It's amazing how that can work out, isn't it? Amazing how that can work out.
Yeah, it's quite funny. So a little bit unlucky, of course, with Alan and the Buffalo Bills. Not quite getting to the Super Bowl, but yeah.
At least the Chiefs didn't win again.
No, they didn't. Anyway, let's get back into this cracking race here. Brett Fisher, he is in P11. He's up 12 spots. He is under a bit of pressure as well. And, of course, Adrian Zippy Zeal is in the mix of it as well. Can never rule him out. Fish in the black car behind Zippy. Good to see Zippy's got through 2 fuel stops without short fueling the car like he has before. Has been known to only put 4 litres in.
Yeah, I'm waiting. I'm waiting for the day that AJR gets an Ampol sponsorship. I'll be honest with you, John. You know, NZ's great and all, but I feel like Zippy needs the Ampol sponsorship on the side of that car just to fuel him to the end.
He needs an Exxon Valdez tug behind him. That's what he really needs.
He's a rolling refueler, is what he needs, John. That's what he wants.
Absolutely. yeah, these boys here having a good battle. Let's have a look. We'll scroll down a bit more. We talked about Stacey, Simon Herschel. We've talked about a few other guys a bit battered and beaten down the bottom of the list
We
here.
haven't spoken about Richard Barella today, John. He's having a solid run at the moment, up 9 into P17.
Yeah, in P17. Richie, of course, as you know, Richie's been a very busy boy with work and everything else, so he hasn't had the seat time to put into his racing that he'd like to put in. Also heavily involved with the North Albury Cricket Club, life member down there. Spends all of his summers scoring on Saturday, watching his young bloke Ash play, who's very, I think, sure he's captain this season of the team. I think he might be or has been before. And then looks after his other son Josh as well. He comes down and helps him. Yeah, Richie, busy man, of course, but loves his sim racing, very passionate about it. And a lot of people don't know too, Richie's the number 2 steward in the Pro Series. So, you know, has a fair bit of knowledge when it comes to RC as well. So, puts up a good show, Richie.
I think
absolute battler.
If there's a driver I'd like to see win a title, whether it's split 3 or if he somehow, you know, finds some pace in split 2, I feel like it's Richard Barella. I don't think anyone would be mad at Richard Barella winning a championship, John. I feel like he'd be arguably the most, it feels like the most neutral driver that could win a championship and no one would be upset.
Look, Richie prides himself on not having incidents. Prides himself on being able to battle around people and with people. Absolutely loves his racing. Comes from a motocross background. So that's where Richie has done a lot of his motorsport. Has done the Fink on a motorbike, which is interesting stories he's got to tell about that. And he's the grandson of Alfred Barella, the VC winner from the First World War. So, and has retraced his grandfather's steps doing the march from Alice Springs to Darwin, which is what his grandfather did to enrol for the First World War. So when next season or the season coming, which I know my livery painter, which used to be me in our team, but it's not me anymore, Dean Flavel's already done our Anzac liveries for this season. And if you ever see a WKMP Anzac livery on the roof, has the commendation to Alfred Barella written out, which is quite an interesting story of what he'd done going over the wall on the front line Femels, over the front line and attacking the Germans with a revolver and saving his boys.
John, no! Contact with Hasler and Logsdale, the leader.
Oh, no. No, Dean, no.
So Hasler had taken a third stop, I would assume for tyres, and has just cost Dean Logsdale the lead of this race, the lead of his life. I mean, he had about 8 seconds on Barnett, and it's gone in an absolute blink of an eye.
Oh, that is just heartbreaking. We always have heartbreaking moments, don't we, when we get to the end of the season, and that is one of them.
It really,
but all's not lost. He's still in P2. All's not lost. He's still in striking distance.
The tyres will be hurting after that.
So he's got to settle in. Still plenty of time though. It's only 53.68. He's just got to settle those tyres. Just got to be patient for a lap or two, and then try and build that pace to get back at Logan. But no, when you're talking about someone of Logan's ability, it's going to be hard to find that pace to get back to him.
It's going to be so difficult for Dean Logsdale to come back at Logan Barnett now, who takes the lead of this race. At this point, Logan Barnett, everyone from P7 down is lit up in blue, but that's strictly for the fact of they can be lapped at this point. They're not necessarily lapped at this point. So Simon Haynes is the only driver not in lappable distance of Logan Barnett, it seems, at this point. But that's an unfortunate moment for Dean Logsdale and Nick Hasler, who will be absolutely kicking himself. You can see there he's just struggling into turn 4, runs it off the road, and they come past. So unfortunately for Dean, he would have hoped that would have happened a lap ago, and he wouldn't have lost the lead.
There we go. Sean saying that Nick was shattered in his stream. Yeah, I reckon he would be. I woke the street with some expletives, is what Lee Logsdale's just said. Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised with that one either, Dean.
Yeah, I would not myself.
And of course, the hard part now is getting your composure back again to settle it in, and knowing that there's still time left in the race to attack.
Nick Hasler's just cutting grass up at Lukey Heights at this point. It's unfortunate for Nick there.
Yeah, Nick would be shattered as well.
Yeah, he would. He would indeed. Barnett now leads 0.8 of a second over Dean Logsdale. So I hope he's not done just yet for Dean. If Logan, though, were to win this race at this point, record would be shattered. 7 wins in a single season. No one has ever done it in Split 2. And from arguably the most dominant provisional champion in Logan Barnett, well, it seems like he'd be the right one to do it, John, because he has been on absolute fire this season.
Absolutely.
At this point of the race, he's only, I think he's only about 3 laps away from 75%, which would make him the champion-elect.
And we've been waving the flag, of course, with AJR, waving the New Zealand flag. We all forget as well that Logan is from the other eastern state as well. We've seen the calibre of drivers that they produce over there. And Logan definitely sitting in the mould here in P1.
He's definitely got some Greg Murphy about him, does Logan Barnett. He has been so dominant this season. And if Logsdale can't come back at him, he'll be 13 laps away from his 7th win of the season. First ever to do it. And it'll be his first Split 2 championship. I believe it'll be the first Split 2 championship for 9.5 Sim Sports as well. Be there. Now, when did Gamble join 9.5? It'll be their 3rd championship, John, if he wins.
Yeah, I think it's his 3rd, yep.
Yeah, because Gamble has won 2 with 9.5.
Yep. Yeah, so it is a cracking effort from Logan Barnett here in front of Dean Logsdale. Further 11 seconds back, we see Sean Vandermeulen in his swan song for Nova Sim Sports. After that, Jason Fuhn from Banter Alliance, he's sitting in 4th. That is a great drive from Jason. He's got air between him either side now. He's just got to bring it home from there. Then we go down. Simon Haynes, the kid is up 18 positions. That is a fair effort in itself, just showing what I believe he can do, being up that many spots. And then, of course, Rick Viger, he's managed to get himself up 10 spots. He's battled away very hard. Brett Fisher is up 15 spots in 8th. Zippy, he started up on the 2nd row. He's back in 9th. He'd be a bit disappointed with that. And rounding out our top 10, of course, we've got Mick Clifton. And then Wayne Sanford, who is knocking on the door. I think he's probably in striking distance where he is here of potentially getting himself into striking distance to be promoted. So it'll be interesting to see. Could we get a Southern Cross driver into Split 1?
It'll be the same for Stacey Boyd as well, John, at this point. So both of those drivers are in striking distance of a Split 1 appearance next season. At this point, Barnett, well, he locked it in about 2 rounds ago. For Logsdale, he locked it in last week. And for Jason Spriggs, who's not here tonight, he also locked it in last week as well. So for these drivers, they know they're going to be in Split 1 next season, John. Especially now that this round has become a drop round, or a droppable round, we'll say. So it's those final 2 spots that are up for grabs. And with Matt Muggleton not racing tonight, it gives a great opportunity to Wayne Sanderson and Stacey Boyd to sneak their way into Split 1 for season 23.
After the way Muggo was typing in Discord earlier in the week after his little up and the magic little tablets they've obviously were giving him, I'm surprised he didn't jump in the rig. I think he was. I think the way he was typing, I think he was unbeatable.
So I was going to say, you get enough of him in him, he could physically drive. I don't know if he'd mentally be at Phillip Island, though, if I'm honest, John.
All seriousness, though, Muggo, I hope your recovery's going well, mate. No, he was very chirpy about it. He was very happy it became a drop round.
Well, it brought him back into the contention for that Split 1 opportunity. But with Sanderson and Boyd currently where they are, he would still remain in split 2, which, you know, after round 1, I didn't think Matt was going to be in that battle. I'm going to be completely honest. I thought, Matt's going to struggle this season. He'll probably be mid-pack. May get a top 10 one race this season. But after that Christmas break and as we came into the new year, he proved me wrong so heavily. I mean, going into next season, out of the current split 2 field, who would be remaining in split 2 at this point? If we know that Barnett, Spriggs, Logsdale, say Sanderson and Boyd go up, for my money, my three favourite drivers that could win the title next season is Matt Muggleton, Sean Vandermeulen, and if he can get a bit more luck in him next season, Jim Caparonis. They are my for current split 2 drivers. We know we've got Tim Mulford on the new driver list, John, and if he ends up in split 2, well, that may shake that up a little bit itself. The drivers coming down from split 1 will shake that up as well. But for current split 2 drivers, for my money, the top 3 seeds is Vandermeulen, Caparonis, and Muggleton, just based on where they're going to be next season, how they could be handling themselves. The thing that could take Matt out of it is his recovery time for his operation. That is the factor of that one. Because we saw how long it took Vandermeulen to get up to speed from his knee reco. So maybe not. Exactly. But who knows? It could go anyone's way. It's a long season. Anything can happen across 10 rounds of racing. And it could go to any one of them. It could go to none of them. You know, we may see Jason Fewens able to race every week and he could win the title for himself. We may see Mick Clifton finally rise up to championship winning contention. We may see Rick Viger and Chad Viger back in championship contention. Who knows? It's all going to be determined next season.
Oh, don't forget too, you got some good guys coming back up from split 3 as well.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
yeah, like,
Rushy's coming up from split 3. Yep. I know he's hungry for the opportunity back in split 2.
Yep.
A couple other boys down there as well.
Yeah, O'Brien will be back.
Yep. I know that James Baldwin was disappointed he wasn't able to make the top 5, but he's hungry next season to try and get back up to top 5 level to get back into split 2. Especially now that Shane is the Lone Ranger once again for the team in a split up. I know that James is hungry for that to happen for him again. So, and who knows, next season we may see the resurgence once again of Ray Smith off of his split 4 championship into split 3. We may see him, you know, come up into split 2 once again.
And don't forget too, you're going to have the likes of
from Haynes.
Yeah, and you're going to have Michael Quain coming back into split 2.
Yep.
No, Quain, a former split 1 driver, so you can't rule him out either.
I just want to point out to Simple, Jace Spriggs, at this point, Jason Spriggs is locked into split 1. Simple, he can't drop out of the top 5 based on his points. I don't think Simon realised that, John.
Yeah, fair enough.
He can't. He mathematically can't. Even with this round now as a drop round, he actually. It's funny how a cyclone is the only thing that stopped Jason Spriggs from racing in every single race this season, John. After seasons gone by where he hasn't managed to put a full season together, he finally does it this season, and a cyclone stops him going 10 from 10. It's so unfortunate. Yeah,
I know. It's just, you know, we just wanted everyone to be safe and everyone to get time that needed to prepare, and you know, everyone's going to be back with us next season, which is going to be bloody awesome.
I will indeed. I've had confirmation as well. Jamie Peters is officially out of this race, John, with more wheel issues. So not the way that he would want to end that stint with Infinity Motorsport. Hopefully he can get that sorted before next season. It's a quick turnaround, of course, 2 weeks leading into season 23. So it's unfortunate for Jamie. It appears that Paul Burns is also out. Blanchard is out. Mackay, Troy Sipple, Paul Burns, Nick Hasler all in pit lane 2. I suspect they may be out of this race as well, so it's unfortunate for them. We are past 75% of the way through. So at this point, Logan Barnett would be... Actually, no, at this point, Logan Barnett is champion because he cannot drop below 26th position based on who is already out of the race. So he just has to, you know, he's champion-elect at this point is Logan. We just have to wait for the checkered flag to fly and he would become champion at this point.
That is a very proud moment for him. I know he'd be pretty chuffed. Hopefully he'll come in and talk to us after the race. But a great effort from him. It is bloody awesome. 9-5, getting another title. I know Macca works very hard with the boys, and they've got a very good team around them over there at 9-5, a good mix of young and old drivers. And Macca has been an integral coach to guys like Dylan Rudd, who's gone on to win the Pro Series. Macca knows what he's talking about when it comes to sim racing and knows what he's talking about when it comes to karting as well. Very experienced fella, Macca.
So unfortunately,
and does an awesome job.
Just quickly, John, unfortunately, Dean Logsdale caught the bad or the rough end of the traffic then. Barnett streamed through turn 2. Logsdale just got stuck behind those drivers as Barnett extended that lead to 1.8 seconds, thanks to a bit of lap traffic in behind him as well. So it'll be 7 laps to go when we cross the line. 7 laps away from Logan Barnett officially being crowned Season 22 Split 2 champion, the most dominant season any driver has ever had in Split 2. You have to look back at Season 18 from Matt Scholes, Season 19 from Stephen Kennedy, and Season 16 from Rick Sibra to even get anything close to the sort of sheer dominance that Logan Barnett has had. And if he wins tonight, it'd be his 7th win of the season. He'd break the record for most wins, and he would lock himself in as the most dominant Split 2 champion of all time. No one has ever made it to that point, made it to that amount of wins. He's only had 1 race this season, John, where he's finished outside of the top 10. That was at the Nürburgring. Every other race, for every top 10 he's had, he's finished inside of the top 5. And if he wins tonight, every race that would count as a non-dropped round, he would have finished on the podium. He has never.
That is a cracking effort.
Incredible. It's incredible that can work out that way for Logan Barnett. So he's at the front of the field, 62 of 68 at this point. Logsdale's now gotten past that lap traffic. He's only a couple laps away from locked into Split 1 next season. Sean Vandermeulen, he's got about 10.5 seconds back to Jace Fewens. It is swan song for Nova Sim Sports in the Pro Plumbing Supplies entry. I'll be interested to see what this car looks like next season, because you'd have to assume with Sean leaving, they'd also be losing that Stiff Rigs bait and tackle and the Pro Plumbing Supplies sponsorship off the side of that car as well, John. So interesting how these cars will be dressed up for Season 23 as well.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see. Big changes over there at Nova Sim Sport. Of course, few other changes in the background. Billy Mole stepping across the WKMP, and we've also seen the Sean Vandermeulen. And there's still rumours going around. I still think that they're trying to throw me off the bait. I think I'm still right with my prediction. I still think we're going to see Rob Baxter in a Nova livery next season.
Ooh, very interesting. Very, very interesting if that could work out. I mean, of course, they've got a vet's seat to fill, and they've got another seat to fill from outside of it as well. I was quite surprised when I saw that Billy had actually left Nova and gone to WKMP, and then when Blake Warboys confirmed that it was actually Billy that approached WKMP as well, I was incredibly surprised. I mean, this team's been on the rise back up the rankings over the last few seasons since Stacey Boyd and Sean Vandermeulen joined the outfit this time last year. And I'll be interested to see how this team now develops, who they bring in, and how they move forward in the future. They've retained Stacey Boyd, but it's whether he can be the leader for this team with, of course, Mark Duggan not being in the seat anymore. Of course, no more Paul Hayes in vets as well. And if Todd Duggan can get back up to winning ways as well, and how this team will develop into 2025. 2024 was a solid year for them. Wasn't the height of their success, John. I think we can both determine 2023 was probably the height of their success. But 2024 was a big rebuild year, and you'd hope that they can come into 2025 reaping the benefits of that rebuild.
Yeah, you'd hope so. You'd hope that they could do something. Like I said, Todd and Mark, very, very great guys, very, very experienced, know what they're talking about, know what they're doing. Matty Parker's no slouch in a sim rig or a go-kart either. He knows what he's doing. Stacey Boyd, no, we've seen what he can do. He's an absolute professional about it. So there is opportunities there. If anyone's looking for a team, what I'd probably say is maybe knock on Todd's door and see if there is anything going. Of course, you've also got Shane Patterson in that group as well down in the lower splits, so they're not scared to have guys down as lower split 4. It is definitely, worthwhile putting your foot in with the team, particularly if you get a team with experienced guys. Sort of going back with Billy, I think that's what he was looking for, was that next level step up, sort of getting a bit of tutelage from someone like Blake. And I know from my time racing an SRW that you can't beat somebody who is spotting for you with that knowledge in your ear while you're going around in circles, telling you do this a little bit different, do that a bit different, and watching the lap times drop. Absolutely worth doing. And there we go. Bruce McLeod says I'm moving there as well. There. Yeah, it is definitely, like, for anyone out there, it is definitely worthwhile getting involved with a team, particularly a team that's got some experienced drivers in it. Particularly if you're learning your racecraft, learning things such as strategies, as well as the minor things of how to gear the car and all your biases and all that sort of stuff really helps, particularly fixed setups. It's worth doing. As we jump back on here, Wayne Sanderson, he is definitely, I think, in that battle trying to get himself on that top 5. Hamish, I think he's not far from it there. I don't know whether 11's going to cut it, though. That's the only thing. I'd like to see him probably sneak up 1 or 2 more spots just to make sure he gets the job done.
Yeah. Double check, because of course, beauty of hindsight is we can actually check where he finishes, so we can actually see if it is enough for him at this point.
I know Boydie's got a bag full of points going into this race as well. Maybe Matt Muggleton not being here might be the saviour for these 2 guys. Maybe these 2 guys.
Realistically, I would say it is. That definitely has saved them. I think as well the fact that Jim Caparonis, unfortunately, is a bit further back. If he was up around them, that would put a lot more pressure on them at this point as well. But yeah, realistically, I mean, with Ricky Hyde having an unfortunately poor race back in P24, it's kind of left to these guys now to claim those top 5 positions. Same with Jim being further back too. So at this point, I think they're relatively safe as long as Jim doesn't make up any more positions. If he gets onto the back of them, I think that's when they're under pressure again, based on the maths. So it's tough. It's tough if that's how it plays out, but it's,
definitely need to go through the average points and all that stuff still too before we finalise who's promoted. But I'm probably saying they could be okay, like you're saying.
Yeah.
Probably need to send a big thank you card to Muggo.
Yeah. He'll respond with sending them the invoice for the knee. That's you can thank me by paying this off for me,
Don't worry. I go physio twice a week for my knee at the moment. I get told I was too young to have anything done to it. So, anyway.
Well, we can see
fun and games getting older.
It's all fun and games getting older, isn't it? It's one of those ways of life. But at this point, Rick Viger under immense pressure from Brett Fisher. This is for P7 on the road. Further up from them, they've got Dave Arney and Simon Haynes battling as well. Fisher not quite ready to go for the move on Rick Viger yet. As we enter lap 66 of 68, there is Haynes and Arney up the inside at Miller. Oh, not quite. He wasn't quite able to get the run. A lot of respect. But couldn't carry the pace on the inside of the corner there. John Arney survives for now. Will he benefit from having the one and only Steve Banks in Vets next season for Dave Arney, the team owner of Pacific Esports Racing?
So it's been a few seasons since the boss has been around.
Yeah,
so
and based on his pace from what I've seen, he could slot into Split 2 based on the pace I've seen. But it depends how he goes. With pub testing and with pre-qualification as well. But it's one of those things of how will it pan out.
So he's laughing at Sean's comment.
Yeah. I mean, look at where he is. He's P3, John. You know, new knee, new man.
Yep.
I still run with the belief that we need to ID check people's fresh parts of their body. So because Sean's knee is younger than this car's life on iRacing, he should not be allowed to race it because it's not over 40 years old. And the same would be said for Matt Muggleton as well.
Anyway, like I said, we're all getting old, and it's like Brad Hayes, for those who didn't hear the broadcast last night, Brad Hayes raced the last 3 races of the season with multiple fractures in his wrist from a workplace incident. Like, he was keen as mustard to get the season finished and try and get promoted, so he kept racing. So just shows the dedication that us old boys are doing with their injuries in life.
Fair play to him. Did it pay off with him getting into the top 5, John?
I think it did in the end. Yeah. So he did very well.
Well, 1 lap to go for Logan Barnett. 1 lap away from a history-breaking season of Logan Barnett. He's got 4.9 seconds back to Dean Logsdale. 4 odd kilometres left until he is a 7-time race winner in Split 2 of Vets. I never thought, John, I mean, last season I never thought we'd get a champion who won the first round. That happened with Steve Grumley. He broke that record. He broke the Moz. I never thought, though, after 2 years of calling Split 2, we would ever see a champion win 7 races in a single season. After so many have come close, and it's just dropped by the wayside for them in the end. But for Barnett,
it's been so competitive.
It's gotten so much more competitive. This has been one of the cleanest Split 2 seasons we have ever seen in the Racecraft Simulations V8 Veterans. And for Logan Barnett, it's been a season of perfection. It's been a season of dominance. 1 race he finished outside of the top 10. Every other time he was inside the top 5 on the podium. And he crescendos his perfect season for 9.5 Sim Sports as he rounds the final corner and enters the Gardner Straight for the final time in Split 2. Logan Barnett is your Season 22 Split 2 champion with 7 wins in a single season. He shatters the record previously held by Rick Sibra and Stephen Kennedy. He breaks it, he makes history, and he moves on to Split 1 next season to join his teammates Sean McNamara and Scott Gamble. And he brings a 3rd championship to that team in the V8 Veterans in extraordinary fashion. Dean Logsdale P2, he locks himself into Split 1 next season. Jason Spriggs will of course be going up with them as well, even though he didn't race tonight. And then the question we had on our lips, John, is if this is good enough for Stacey Boyd and Wayne Sanderson to go to Split 1 next season for SCR's first appearance as a team in Split 1 and for Stacey Boyd's first appearance in Split 1. Would he be the first American to do so if that happens?
I think he will be, yes. Wow. He'll be our first American. Jeff Eddy's our only other American that raced in the league, so yeah, it'll be a big step up for Stacey. Looking forward to it.
As they cross the line, they lock in P11 and P12. It gives them P4 and P5 in the championship, but it all comes down to their best or average 8 performances in the season. So for Jim Caparonis, he's still within the hunt at this stage. Ricky Hyde as well, but they do not finish the season in the top 5. But for Logan Barnett, it was an absolutely cracking ride all season long, and it was one that brought him a championship, brought him track time, brought him confidence, brought him one hell of a run. Sean Vandermeulen ended up on the podium as well in his final run for Nova Sim Sports before leaving for 9.5 Sim Sports next season. But this guy right here, Logan Barnett, I mean, the words cannot describe. It's unfortunate that Scott can't be here with me tonight to be here for this moment for his teammate. But what a run home this season it was for Logan Barnett and for that team as well. Absolute champion performances from them, and it is all solidified by becoming the Split 2 champion for 9.5 Sim Sports in an impeccable season. One that, as I mentioned, John, was history breaking. And we can see here the roadmap to champion for Logan Barnett. 1,468 points. 7 wins, a new record now broken. 9 top 5 finishes out of 10 races, and every non-drop round Barnett finished on the podium. We're joined by both Logan and Dean now. We'll start with you though, Logan, seeing as it's half midnight in New Zealand. Mate, you are the Split 2 champion, and you are the Split 2 champion in the most dominant season by a champion in history for Split 2. Congratulations. You have just absolutely shattered every single record we ever had.
No, thank you. It was it's been a good year, but a lot of work. And I'm not going to lie, like going down from Split 1 to Split 2, I probably thought it was going to be a bit easier. But I got to the first round and everyone was, I think first round there was less than a tenth between me and Dean in quali, so I knew I'd have a battle for the season from there on in.
Yeah, a lot of guys think coming backwards is going to be easy in vets, but it is actually one of the hardest things to do. How did you find the changing in the racing standard?
Honestly, I think Split 2 is probably the best split to race in for cleanness, like this season anyway.
Not too easy. And of course, mate, how much help do you get out of Scotty and Sean as well in terms of doing your practice during the week and getting everything maximised for strat and everything else?
Yeah, honestly, those guys help a massive amount. We do a lot of data share and practice sessions, and even if we're not on together, we have a group chat where we message backwards and forwards about stuff. So honestly, I wouldn't get there without them. So, yeah, they played a massive part.
Too easy. It's good to have good teammates.
Just quickly while you're here, Logan, I am going to make the executive decision, since you never had an opportunity to win it all season, seeing as you won the most races. I'm gonna make the executive decision that you are tonight's Chubby Buns Burgers driver of the day. Arguably, I mean, you're the driver of the season, so I think there's probably no better driver to give it to at this stage. I think, well, the fact of the prerequisite of they cannot have won it beforehand means that Dean unfortunately can't win it tonight because he already won it. Simple can't win it because he already won it. But I think the fact of that you've taken, you've broken the record at this point. You've taken a 7th win. You won 3 on the trot to end the season. And again, you've locked yourself into Split 1 performance, seeing as, well, John, we can already confirm that Logan's average finishing position is going to be P1, seeing as out of 8 races, he won 7. So
That's locked in.
Yeah, you're locked in there, Logan. So yeah, but phenomenal season, mate. An absolutely incredible effort. A very deserving champion this season for Split 2. Before we have a chat to Dean, please let us know anyone you want to give a shout out to, Logan. Any of your sponsors, anyone else as well. Now's your time to do so. And for myself, John, Scotty, who can't be here unfortunately, and everyone else in the league, congratulations on your Racecraft Simulations V8 Veterans Split 2 Championship. And what a way to start off your 2025. Congratulations.
Yeah, thanks, guys. First of all, 9.5 SimSport guys, especially Sean and Scott, and their sponsors. So RSW Graphics, Racecraft, Prestige Cinematography, and Racing Ears and Track Days. And then also, look, you guys for putting on such a fantastic stream, and all the V8 vets admins. They do a fantastic job and give us a great place to race. And lastly, all the guys that raced this season. It's been fantastic, yeah.
Well, Logan, much appreciated you come and have a chat to us tonight. Best of luck next season in Split 1. We'll be keeping a close eye on you to see how you go. And yeah, once again, congratulations. Thanks so much for coming and have a chat to us.
Perfect. Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Mr. Logstyle,
How we going?
mate.
Good. How are you?
Not only how was the profanities in your car when you lost the lead in this race, but how does it feel knowing that, relatively speaking, we can softly assume that there's now going to be 2 AJR cars in Split 1 next season with you and Luke Ullman, depending on how pub testing goes?
Yeah, well, look, if I make it, and I'm hoping I do, but no, if I make it, I'm really excited about it, actually.
I can probably tell you now, Dean, that there's no if you make it, you have made it. So
Oh, good stuff. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm looking forward to it. Me and Luke, we're a pretty similar pace. We was just having some fun today, actually, and yeah, it's going to be good to be back on track with Luke. I mean, last season, when he was in Split 2, he definitely had a bit of pace on me for the most part. But no, I think we're going to have some good battles ourselves, and I think we'll be around each other a lot and hopefully help each other out. So definitely looking forward to it.
Well, Dean, I mean, walk us through this season for you, because you were put under immense pressure from Matt for quite a few rounds there of who was going to be the guy to get into that podium with Jace and Logan. You know, you took a win for yourself this season. You had a phenomenal run. I mean, walk us through it. Walk us through what was it like, obviously, getting up to speed, keep pretty much flying the flag for this team ever since Luke went up last season. And how you think that's now going to set you up well for next season moving into Split 1?
Well, yeah, I mean, because I practiced with Luke, obviously, I've got a bit of a marker. So, and he's had a phenomenal first season in Split 1 himself. Top 10, there's nothing to be sniffed at in Split 1. So, I've got a bit of a marker. So, if I do anything like he's done this season, then I'll be very happy.
Well, Dean, are you feeling any intimidation leading into Split 1 next season, or more or less excitement? I mean, what's the feelings, not only in your camp but in the camp of Team AJR for Split 1 next season? How are you feeling for that one?
Well, I'm fairly confident. To put in a good season. I've been racing, obviously, the ASR League as well on Tuesdays, and racing with a lot of the Split 1 guys, and obviously I think Logan's going to be a top 5 driver, I think, in Split 1. Spriggsy, I think me and Spriggsy will be knocking on the door of top 10s. So, I'm taking a bit of confidence into it. I think, like chatting with Logan last week, do we have to show this bit? Chatting to Logan last week, he said, the top half a dozen most of the time in Split 2 are definitely faster than the back 20 of Split 1. So I'm just going to try and be smart and not make any silly moves. I've sort of learnt some racecraft this season, apart from that corner you're just watching, but just try and stay out of trouble.
Very good. Well, Dean, let us know of anyone you wish to give a shout out to, any of the sponsors or any family or friends out there as well. And for myself, John, Scotty, and the rest of the league, congratulations on P2 here this evening at Phillip Island, but also on P3 in the championship and making Split 1 next season.
Appreciate it. I obviously want to thank the team, AJR. Great bunch of guys, Zippy, AJ, Tim Lawson, my old boy, he's still loving it at 73. Luke, obviously, and Damon Fisher. So yeah, we have a lot of fun, and also want to give a shout out to Darren Linus, actually. So he's just jumped on. He'd love to do this league, but I think he struggles for time. But yeah, we had a bit of a joke actually earlier, because it was only about 18 months ago that he was coaching me around Phillip Island. I think I'd had a rig about 6 weeks, 2 months, and he was explaining trail braking, and it taught me a lot actually. I spent a lot of time with Darren, so it's good to see him there watching tonight. Also, shout out to my mum and dad. They watch every week, so my mum sits there biting her nails like it's the real deal. And obviously, thanks to yourself, you guys doing a great job, and all the admin, obviously, of the Vets League. And all the league sponsors as well, Racecraft, Logitech, Thudspeed, Parramatta Isuzu, Ute, Chubby Buns, Player One Sim Gear, Nova Sim Sports, and LGC Images.
Very good, Dean. Thanks so much for coming to have a chat to us. Best of luck next season for Split 1. Hopefully you're not coming back to us anytime soon, and we, for your sake at least, for staying in Split 1, we don't have to chat to you for a while.
No, I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, guys. Appreciate
Well
it.
deserved. Well deserved, Dean.
Yeah, very
Cheers.
well deserved. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank-
And not to cut him off. I didn't mean to just rudely cut him off there. It's just what happens sometimes. But I have got a message here from Sean Van Millen as well, out of P3. You want to say congrats to Logan on the win, the championship, and the record for most race wins in a season. Thanks to Wayne and the team at Pro Plumbing Supplies in Vermont, SRT Plumbing and Gas Fitting in Gippsland, Hamish and Scott for the broadcasts this season, Vets Admin and Race Control, the guys at Nova Sim Sports. You also wanted to mention a new chapter for him starts now with Sean and the guys at 9.5 Sim Sports, and can't wait to see where things take him. And he also wanted to thank us as well. So, yeah, shame that Sean couldn't join us in the booth tonight, but great to at least have that message from him in his final race for Nova Sim Sports as well. If we quickly have a look at, John, the top 10 in the championship, I did create a nice little graphic tonight for the top 10. Instead of just getting put into the deep end by Scott last week when I didn't have a graphic set up for the standings, we have got one set up this week. So there we can see that's currently the top 5, the top 10 in the championship with the top 5 in gold, which obviously that then needs to come down to their averaging finishing positions and whether they are the top 5 that go up next season. That's all determined from the pub test and everything like that. But Logan Barnett,
think it's pretty safe to say that is. I'd be surprised if there's anyone. I'm surprised. Let's have a quick look at the results before. I'd be surprised if there's anybody down in that lower area, less than 8 races, that's going to knock on the door.
Yeah. Logan Barnett takes the championship win with 1,468 points. I think it might be the most points anyone's ever taken in Split 2 before. Of course, with the most wins this season, 7 wins out of 10 races. All 9 of his 9 out of 10 races this season, his non-drops were all on the podium. He didn't finish below 3rd for his non-drops all season. Jason Spriggs, P2, he didn't race on Thursday, but luckily for him, his previous worst round was a P3 that he actually then gained back, John. Oh, no, it was a P4, 172 points. So that then put him into 1,408 points. Dean Logsdale locked himself into Split 1 tonight with 3rd on 1,368 for Team AJR. Wayne Sanderson, Stacey Boyd get themselves into the top 5 of the championship as well. Matt Muggleton, who missed the last 2 rounds, 2 points away. 1 position for Stacey Boyd was how close Matt Muggleton was to the top 5 of the championship, John. And he would have been equal on points. It would have gone to count back. He was 2 positions away from being inside the top 5. So, Matt, you can blame Stacey for not getting P14 as to why you're not in the top 5. Jim Caparonis, P7 for Southern Cross Sim Racing, 1,263 points. Ricky Hyde, P8, 801 Sim Racing, 1,257. Chris Blanchard gets into the top 10 of the title race, 1,250. And then Paul Burns for 801 Sim Sports, with 1,237 for a relatively great season for Paul, actually. He struggled the past few seasons in Split 2, so good to see him back inside of the top 10 of the championship. So, I mean, it looks, relatively speaking, John, that those will be the 5
That's right.
that go up. It'll be hard for anyone else to really get past them in that sense. For those wondering, it has become a tradition that the end of the Split 2 season is when we reveal what the next season's thumbnail is for Split 2. I take a lot of time and effort and pride in the fact that I have enough creative control and that I can at least try and make something special for Split 2. So this is what next season's Split 2 thumbnail will be. We go back to red after quite a few seasons. Last time we had red as a base for season 17. Which was a white base with red. So next season we move to pretty much all black with a bit of red in there. We got the Gen 3 still. Round 1 still non-confirmed, but it's what was on the provisional calendar was Sebring. So whether it remains that way, not sure.
It'll definitely be the Enduro at Sebring round 1.
Okay.
I can't see our racing knocking that one out.
Okay. So it'll definitely be Sebring for round 1 for season 23 of next season. So that's what's to look out for when you're looking for the Split 2 shows of next season. Just basically look for a heap of red and you'll find it. Similar to this season when you're looking for a heap of pink. But A massive thank you to you, John, for stepping in tonight last minute to help me cover from Scotty Gamble. We hope that everything's all right with Scotty as well in what he was dealing with. And we hope that everyone hits the like button, the subscribe, the bell icon as well. And so you're notified whenever we go racing on the Vets. We'll be away for a couple of weeks. The next bit of content you'll find on the Vets channel will be the split reveal in a couple of weeks' time. It should be on a Saturday night. We were discussing between myself and John, but we'll confirm that in future. You guys will see when it will go up. But until then, enjoy the break for the new drivers. Enjoy pre-qualifying, and we'll see you guys very, very soon.
Welcome aboard.
Yeah, welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. So good.
That's right. And there are 3 spots if you want to come and play. You're more than welcome.
Yep. There are new spots available still, 3 spots. So if you're interested, come racing with us next season. You will not be disappointed. But big thank you to all of our series sponsors, Racekraft Simulations, the title sponsors of the series, for continuing to support us. Head over to 16 Grogan Road, Perth Airport. If you're in the lookout for a new rig, chat to John and the team. You guys can test out some rigs for yourself. If you've got a bit of spare coin, buy that PT1. I know it's on a lot of people's wish lists. And if you live outside of WA, then you can also as well order them straight to your door, delivered to you as well to Logitech G, Parramatta, Isuzu, Play One Sim Gear, Nova Sim Sports, Sud Speed Gloves, LGC Images, and Chubby Buns Burgers as well for providing us with the Driver of the Day award. Tonight it went to our championship winner, Logan Barnett. Next season, it may go to you. But until then, I've been Hamish Munro with John Van Ree. This time by. Appreciate your time. Appreciate you being here with us once again. But until next time, stay safe, drive hard, and as always, bye for now.
I ain't playing weak, no, I'm playing for keeps. Can't stop me, I'm a legend. I run with the crew that's making the moves. Get out of the way, we coming through. We got this, never stopping, and we won't lose. No, we can't lose. Yeah! Are you ready? Yeah! We are the legends. We are the legends. Yeah! Are you ready? We are the legends. We are the legends.
The Racing Series is a new milestone in Logitech G.
All the great old wheels, the G29, the G920, the G923, they all have their own unique way of connecting to each other, but there's no room for expansion with those products.
So the question arose was, what if we were to give the opportunity for the racer to switch out from a drifting wheel to a GT rim?
With the wheel hubs that we've created, that's got a very specific button set, but you can replace any of the steering wheels.
And the real lovely aspect to this was we could give the user, driver, and the racer the opportunity to experience different genres of race.
That allows drivers to craft high quality, customized setups that resonate with your individual racing style.
When we start with the design, we always start sketching. Very often, once we've got sketches, we start discussing with engineering.
We had 3 rounds of engineering testing or user testing where we invited in users from sim racing, and every single round of feedback we refine, the product based on what they tell us.
In this sim racing lab, again, we're going to use data to really analyze what a driver needs. We've used everything from eye tracking to the inputs from the pedals, the inputs from the, let's just say, input devices, the wheel and the pedals, the shifter. We're taking that and we're compiling it so that we can build different products based on those individuals' needs for all consumers and all drivers.
I don't know of anyone else in the industry that's actually doing this kind of research into their products to see how their products are affecting performance of their users.
We've built the product to make sure that it's as reliable as possible.
So the innovations in engineering that I'd say we're most proud of is the sequential handbrake and shifter toolless changeover. This is now a patented system, so it's really easy for the user to just switch between modes.
If you give people the tools to do what they want, they will.
They will just go off and have fun.
Introducing the Rackraft PT1, custom-built full chassis racing simulator. The design project, codenamed The Cage, an 80/40 extrusion chassis sitting on top of a Sigma Integrale DK2 Plus 4-point full motion actuator system. No compromises in the cockpit of the PT1 simulator. To maximize the experience, we start with the 49-inch ultra-wide monitor for the greatest field of view in a small footprint of the simulator, down to the SimuCube wheelbase that's tucked up and behind the monitors with SimCore extensions to get things out of the driving area. Everything is connected to a Cube Controls GTX steering wheel with the built-in dash and all the extra button functions available at your fingertips. Driving through the Raceworks S1 pedals, the potentiometer throttle and the 2 hydraulic pedals for brake and clutch ensures you maximize the feel underfoot, and seating yourself into an OMP HTER bucket racing seat with OMP belts connected to a G-belt tensioner to provide that extra feeling and the heightened experience while you're driving. Additional interfaces and accessories in the PT1, we have twin butt kickers, one on either side of the OMP seat, as well as a Jinx sequential shifter, the SimPush Race Logic timer to the left-hand side, a Rackraft built-in WinSim kit with Philips Hue lighting and a built-in soundbar, plus the OMP side net to finish off the experience in the PT1. The Rackraft PT1, build number 1, the ultimate in sim racing experience, combining the best products in the market with the passionate, no-compromise approach that goes beyond racing simulation.